The cedi has appreciated significantly, trading at approximately 11 cedis to the greenback, a value gain of nearly 30%. This appreciation has lowered import costs and restored investor confidence. However, Godfred Bokpin, professor of finance and economics at the University of Ghana, warns that we should not get ahead of ourselves. While he acknowledges the recovery is real, he believes the cedi's appreciation may have outpaced growth in the productive sectors of the economy.
If you look at the way the cedi performed this year, the cedi jumped the gun. The cedi went far ahead of the recovery. And that is why we're concerned about the aggressive pace of the strengthening or the appreciation. That growth, again, is not driving what we call structural transformation. Of course, that takes a while. So the growth is still coming from a bit of low productivity. Of course, we can talk about ICT, which was the biggest driver of the second quarter growth. But then when you talk about agriculture and the growth that is coming from crops, it's still low productivity. So we can't use that to say that there's transformation.
Sharing these concerns is the chief executive of Dalex Finance, Joe Jackson. He cautions that while the gains are impressive, stringent measures will be required to ensure this newfound stability becomes permanent.
In 2025, the cedi appreciated. And all of us are smiling, isn't it? All of us believe the discipline, the cedi is smiling. But the problem is structural. The problem is structural. So unless we fix it, guess what? As soon as our discipline starts to slip, as soon as things start to change, what will happen? We'll be back where we were before. And that's why this warning is timely. Because you see, you don't give a warning according to the Bible, you don't give a warning in the lean years. So in the good years, you find the Joseph who put aside enough grain for the lean years. This is a time when we're all smiling because the cedi is appreciating. But as sure as night follows day, if we don't fix these structural problems, we'll be back where we started.
The Bank of Ghana's role in this stabilization has been pivotal, from robust monetary policies to building reserves and intervening strategically to support the cedi. Yet, the central bank cannot declare victory just yet. Even with recent rate cuts, real interest rates remain high, making borrowing expensive for local businesses. While the monetary policy rate sits at 14%, average lending rates at commercial banks hover around 19%. Despite this, the governor remains resolute and confident that these measures will safeguard the economy's long-term gains.
In the view of the committee, despite these upside risks to the inflation profile, the favorable domestic macroeconomic conditions, and also the high prevailing real interest rates, these provide scope to ease the policy rate further. Consequently, the MPC decided to reduce the monetary policy rate by 150 basis points to 14%. The committee will continue to closely monitor developments, especially in the Middle East, and its potential implications on the inflation outlook.
To see if these macroeconomic victories are being felt beyond the boardrooms, Joy Business took to the streets to find out what Ghanaians make of President Mahama's first 16 months in office.
They are saying that they've reduced things, but things are not going well. They don't buy. You come and sit here, you will not sell anything, and you go home.
For 1.5 years now, as a business people, I think the government has done well.
Oba 2 years ni.
It's been here for almost 2 years, and business has gone down drastically. I used to order my own containers, but this year I've not been able to do that.
No, you don't have, the business is not moving at all.
Said a women bank. The bank hasn't come.
For now, prices are down, we like it, but they are not buying. There's no money in the system.
At first, things were expensive, but sales were good. But
after a severe crisis marked by soaring inflation, currency depreciation and debt distress, the return of President John Mahama has been defined by one central promise, the Reset Ghana agenda. This plan aims to steady economic improvement, rebuild confidence in public institutions, and ultimately improve living conditions for the average Ghanaian. Long before the latest economic data emerged, President Mahama had promised decisive action within his first 120 days, ranging from tax reviews and financing for women-led businesses to job creation programs and reforms in state-owned enterprises. This agenda was formally cemented during his first State of the Nation's address in 2025.
Yesterday, February 26, 2025, marks exactly 10 years since I stood in this chamber at this very spot to declare my determination to fix Dumso, a legacy problem of power shortages. And Mr. Speaker, I fixed it.
So as for performance, he's performing, even though there are a lot of challenges, and I'm hoping, and I know definitely God will support him to overcome the challenges. It's just a matter of time, because if you compare his 1 or 2 years in power to the outgone government, in fact, he has done best. He has done the most best out of, if we want to, let's say, give him rate him in a percentage-wise, in fact, he has done the best. I can even rate him 70%. Because if you look at the Dodowa stretch road construction, in fact, he's performing. The same as Pokwase to Insawam Road, he's still performing. People will definitely criticize him. Likewise, this ECG crisis, he's not the one, but definitely people will mention him like they will so, how do you call it, say he's the one causing it, but he's not the one. As for that one there, definitely, we know.
As compared to the previous one, I can see the previous one is good than this. They are saying that they've reduced things, but things are not going well. They don't buy. You come and sit here, you will not sell anything, and you go home. Look at our place. They say they are doing gutter. They have come and dig the sand and put it here. Nobody is coming here. Even to cross the gutter to come to me, it's a problem. So they will not come to buy. He promised so many. He give us so many promises, and since he came, said a women bank. The bank hasn't come. If the bank is there, maybe you can get even some loan there to support your business, and yet it hasn't come. And he has only 4 years to go, about 2.5 years to go, and still he hasn't done it. So I don't think he can do something now to support us.
How they have managed the economy per se, I hope things will get better. Yeah. But one or two things, especially recent fire outbreak at Akosombo, that power fluctuations going on now. It is very anti-business. It is affecting our businesses. Before, the ministers were 120 something ministers governing our country, but as I'm speaking now, they are, I think, 58. With 58 ministers managing this country and the economy, you give the government pass mark at least 80%. They have done well.
Mahama did well. So far, so good. Everything was on point. Everything's on point. But you pray that they should do more. Because as you can see, we have a big problem in this nation. So everybody knows. Even our road system, our hospitals, it's a lot. Everybody knows. So we are begging them to do better.
farm to plate. Do you really know what you're eating? Any glitch in the circuit of the food chain can change the price and size of what you eat. Technology has changed the face of farming, but how is Ghana plugging in? Join Jesse Aram Agbakpo, Emmanuel Bright Kweku on the food chain as they project startups in the agri sector, highlight the gains and plight of industry players while engaging with experts for more insights in agri-related issues. Food chain, everything agriculture and more, as during the Joy Business Report every Thursday at 1 p.m. on Joy FM and every Saturday at 6 p.m. on the Joy News channel, with a repeat on Tuesdays at 2:30 p.m.
Imagine a family without a home. Imagine a song without a voice. Imagine a church without prayers. Imagine a government without citizens. Imagine democracy without journalists. Imagine a world without the media. Life is full of issues and stories about people, communities, and governments. Stories that have to be told by well-trained journalists. That's why you can't imagine news without Joy News.
So as for performance, he's performing, even though there are a lot of challenges, and I'm hoping, and I know definitely God will support him to overcome the challenges. It's just a matter of time, because if you compare his 1 or 2 years in power to the outgone government, in fact, he has done best. He has done the most best out of, if we want to, let's say, give him rate him in a percentage-wise, in fact, he has done the best. I can even rate him 70%. Because if you look at the Dodowa stretch road construction, in fact, he's performing. The same as Pokwase to Nsawam Road, he's still performing. People will definitely criticize him. Likewise, this ECG crisis, he's not the one, but definitely people will mention him like they will still, how do you call it, say he's the one causing it, but he's not the one. As for that one there, definitely, we know.
As compared to the previous one, I can see the previous one is good than this. They are saying that they've reduced things, but things are not going well. They don't buy. You come and sit here, you will not sell anything, and you go home. Look at our place. They say they are doing gutter. They have come and dig the sand and put it here. Nobody is coming here. Even to cross the gutter to come to me, it's a problem. So they will not come to buy. He promised so many. He give us so many promises, and since he came, said a women bank. The bank hasn't come. If the bank is there, maybe you can get even some loan there to support your business, and yet it hasn't come. And he has only 4 years to go, about 2.5 months, 2.5 years to go, and still he hasn't done it. So I don't think he can do something now to support us.
How they have managed the economy per se, I hope things will get better. Yeah. But one or two.
Hello, good morning, and welcome to the Joy Business Roundtable. Here we try to get the issues that matter to you, especially your pocket. And while headline figures point to steady GDP growth, easing inflation, and gains driven by exports in the extractive sector, the benefits appear uneven on the ground. Farmers face payment delays, industry growth remains sluggish, and services-led expansion is not translating into jobs or productivity. The key question is whether these economic gains reflect genuine progress or a narrow rebound that is yet to impact producers, traders, and manufacturers. Today on the Joy Business Roundtable discussion on the topic, Mahama at 18 months, do economic narrative match real sector outcomes? We will interrogate the numbers and identify the practical policy and strategic interventions required to ensure that macroeconomic progress translates into sustained growth. And that's why we're having this Mahama at 16 months, looking at the achievements so far and how that can translate into your pocket. Now, if you're listening to us on Joy 99.7 FM and streaming online via YouTube and all our social media platforms, this is what we call the Joy Business Roundtable discussion, a policy-oriented platform to examine how economic gains can be effectively transmitted into tangible, real sector outcomes. My guests are Frederick Emisa. He's technical advisor at the Ministry of Finance. Mark Bedu-Abwaji, CEO of the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Economist Professor Ejapoma Jeche Dako. Yao Apialate is partner financial advisory at Deloitte Ghana. CEO of Delix Finance, Joe Jackson, will also be here, and Joseph Paddy, Vice President of the Ghana Union of Traders Association, GUTA. But before we get into the discussions, let me hand you over to Winston Taki, who will take us through the numbers. Winston.
Your Brace, 16 months is not just a small activity. There's been a lot of agenda by the government in terms of initiatives, in terms of gains made from the central bank governance perspective to the finance ministry, to the agri sector, and all these. We're going to go through the historical numbers to assess how those particular initiatives and decisions have led to where we are as a nation. There's been interesting improvement in some numbers, but we also have to assess what are these numbers are translating, or Ghanaians will say, are you feeling it in your pocket? Already the conversation in the last few weeks has been about the power situation, the situation that the intervention by the introduction of about 2,500 transformers and many conversation has come to light. Now, in a short while from now, we'll be going through the historical numbers with my colleague Isaac Akufo-Addo. So stay tuned, we'll be right back after this break.
From farm to plate, do you really know what you're eating? Any glitch in the circuits of the food chain can change the price and size of what you eat. Technology has changed the face of farming, but how is Ghana plugging in? Join Jesse Aram Agbakpo, Emmanuel Bright Kweku on the food chain as they project startups in the agri sector, highlight the gains and plight of industry players while engaging with experts for more insights in agri-related issues. Food chain, everything agriculture and more, as during the Joy Business Report every Thursday at 1 p.m. on Joy FM and every Saturday at 6 p.m. on the Joy News Channel, with a repeat on Tuesdays at 2:30 p.m.
Imagine a family without a home. Imagine a song without a voice. Imagine a church without prayers. Imagine a government without citizens. Imagine democracy without journalists. Imagine a world without the media. Life is full of issues and stories about people, communities, and governments. Stories that have to be told by well-trained journalists. That's why you can't imagine news without Joy News.
Welcome back to the Joy Business Roundtable here on the Joy News Channel. We're also live on Joy 99.7 FM. And today the conversation is going to be on Mahama 16-month. Do economic narrative match the real sector outcomes? So we're going straight to the numbers with my colleague Isaac Akufo-Addo. We want to highlight on what has happened in the last few years, a year and a half basically. We want to see key highlights. We know in terms of transformation, we've seen headline inflation 3.3%. We were somewhere around 23.4% before we got to this point. Would you say there's been a lot of adjustment? Some will ask whether this inflation trajectory consecutively, more than 16 consecutive times, we've seen the drop there.
Well, so this dashboard is actually painting a picture that's telling you that every key indicator as far as our economy is concerned has seen some level of improvement, especially if you're looking at it on the tangent of inflation come down significantly. For the first time, we are feeling a single digit for a number of months, right? And currently around 3.3%. If you look at the exchange rate situation, for the first time since redenomination, we ended the year with a cumulative appreciation of about more than 30%, close to about 40%.
Yeah, 40 plus.
That in itself is a plus for the economy. And many have said that, what are you anchoring your current positive story on? We all know where the source is coming from. We all know that over the years, our biggest problem has to do with balance of payment. And when we have issues with balance of payment, that is when we always go to the IMF and we roll the IMF program. For 17 times, we are still under it. The team is in town. They are also assessing the health of the economy. But when you have issues with your balance of payment, historically, that is when the economy actually feels the pinch. And all of that usually comes from the currency losing value. So if you listen to people in the real sector, businesses, they are saying that, well, we want to feel this. The only way you can feel this is when the actual inflation data that we are seeing is reflecting in the market, when the currency is stable, when businesses are able to predict or to actually plan with a very stable currency. The president gave a band of about 10 cedis to about 12 cedis. We are still within that band. And in fact, many have said that has allowed them to do some level of projection and planning for the year. Another one has to do with the policy rate, which is currently standing around 14%, 14.5%, I think so. That in itself is painting a picture of where we have been before. But if you do the math and if you do the comparative analysis, you could still see that there's a wide difference if we could go between where the policy rate is, the cost of borrowing, and that's the biggest concern of businesses, that where we have the policy rates and where inflation is, plus where the average lending rate is currently, there are still significant gap. The governor's aspiration is that we possibly could be borrowing somewhere around 10%. That is aspiration. But currently, as it stands now, we have still a significant gap between policy rates and where, the average lending rate of inflation is.
One sector that came to light in 2025 or 2026 is basically the cocoa sector. We've seen the great conversation about Ghana, the percentage that are going to the farmers as against the global shortfall. Our target in terms of our projection in the budget, the government estimated that this time around, the farmers were going to get more than 70%.
Yes, so it's 90%.
90% basically. And that was a key conversation until the global shift happened, and where the conversation came to whether there's going to be a new structure in terms of financial modeling of our cocoa sector. The president came in. Now Cote d'Ivoire have also adjusted. Now, however, it ended up that Ghana's prices are quite better than Cote d'Ivoire. Until then, we've seen adjustment in terms of how government have been able to manage their public debt in 2025. We've seen the outcome in terms of rating. Would you say we've done better than we started?
Well, positive, because the ratings are actually an indication that now you can go back to the the Eurobond markets, which we are picking intelligence that government could be going back to the market very soon. They are still doing a test with the local markets where they have successfully issued local bonds at the moment. But Winston, you made a big point about the cocoa industry, where farmers play an integral role in this economy, where initially government wanted to give them 70% of the FOB. Because of the shock, there has been some revision. The finance minister said, we are giving you 90% of whatever that is happening. But the projections we are currently seeing is that in the coming season, which possibly will start August or September, farmers are likely to receive the lowest in terms of price per bag because of what is happening on the cocoa market. The World Bank projecting that cocoa could be slumping in terms of price about 50%. If you look at our debt servicing situation, which the IMF in their last review were a bit skeptical in terms of the staff on whether they will upgrade our status. They said that there are still vulnerabilities. Where is it coming from? The exchange rate situation, where they believe that should anything happen to the health of the city, almost every gain we have had at the moment possibly could go down the drain. Another important aspect also has to do with the energy sector. There can't be any proper economy without reliable power supply. And we all know how much we need to keep our thermal plants on. We have about 70% of the power we consume coming from the thermal plants. You need more than $2 billion US dollars to keep the thermal plants on. We all know what we are facing. Many have said that is because we are doing installation. But clearly, there are issues with generation. There are issues with power supply deficit. And all of that is important to the economy, especially with a government that has 24-hour economy in mind.
Let's not forget the governor of the central bank said that when he was at the spring meeting, that when it comes to the city, we are in a very comfortable place. So this is just an assessment, laying the foundation for today's amazing conversation, insightful discussion with key experts that have been lined up for you this morning. You can also contribute to this conversation by making your comment known via the WhatsApp line that will be scrolling on the screen, as well as on the social media handles, #JoyBusinessRoundtable, and we'll be hearing from you live here with Kojo Bray. So stay tuned. After this break, the conversation begins.
Because of the stabilization of the dollar and the cedi depreciation, it has cushioned us, the business people. Because before President Mahama came to power, you send you go to the forest bureau or this black market people. Within few hours, you will go and it has depreciated again the cedi. So it disturbed the pricing of our commodities. Because if you compare for 1.5 years now, as a business people, I think the government has done well. One thing that has helped this country, or will help this country a lot, is the big push. I travel a lot and I know what is going on now in the road sector. Yes, it is helping this country a lot. When they finish this big push, Ghana will be a better place to live.
And the security is so poor. Our security is not better at all. So I'm begging him to wake up. Because every nation, the most important thing is the security. Security is very, very important. So I'm begging him to alert him to organize the national security or IGP. He should wake up. It's important. See, our borders are weak. Our borders are weak. So I'm begging him to do better. So really, it's normal, but you see, Africa is a problem. So we are trying and we are praying to God they should get more idea to plan better. Because everything is a planning. So if you don't plan, you cannot move forward. So I'm begging them to plan better. Our leaders, especially, they should plan. They should plan. They should sit down and plan well. It's not about materialism. Our leaders, they don't think nation first. That was our problem. They think ourselves. They think our cars and a house and bank accounts and whatever. But white man don't do that. Ghana first.
Prices are down. We like it, but they are not buying. There's no money in the system. People are not buying. So they should push money into the system so that people will get the money to buy. We will also get the money to buy different things. So it will be vice versa. I'll rate him 55%. And for instance, let's take it as in the tax aspect. He has taken many taxes away. But when you come to our business aspect here, we don't sit up. People are not really buying. There's no money in the system. Previous, when the market is, prices are expensive, goods are expensive. But those days, people buy. People get money to buy. But for now, they've reduced prices, but still, people are not buying. And I'll take you to the cocoa aspect and things too. He has not paid cocoa farmers as of now. It's not good.
It's been here for almost 2 years, and business has gone down drastically. I used to order my own containers, but this year, I've not been able to do that.
No, you don't have, the business is not moving at all.
From farm to plate, do you really know what you're eating? Any glitch in the circuits of the food chain can change the price and size of what you eat. Technology has changed the face of farming, but how is Ghana plugging in? Join Jesse Aram Agbakpo, Emmanuel Bright Kweku on the food chain as they project startups in the agri sector, highlight the gains and plight of industry players while engaging with experts for more insights in agri-related issues. Food chain, everything agriculture and more, as during the Joy Business Report every Thursday at 1 p.m. on Joy FM and every Saturday at 6 p.m. on the Joy News channel, with a repeat on Tuesdays at 2:30 p.m.
The city had one of its most dramatic years in recent memory. It opened 2025 at 14 cities, 70 pesos to the dollar. By February, it had weakened slightly to 15 cities, 50 pesos. It stayed there until April, one of the longest periods of stability in more than a decade. Then came the surprise. Between April and May, the city shot up. It strengthened from 15 cities, 50 pesos to 10 cities, 30 pesos in just 5 weeks. From May through July and into early August, it held steady between 10 cities, 30 pesos and 10 cities, 50 pesos. But by mid-August, the tide turned. In only 3 weeks, it slipped to 12 cities. That has made it one of the worst performing currencies in the third quarter of 2025. External conditions have not changed much. In fact, they remain in Ghana's favor. Gold prices are at a record high. The United States dollar is still subdued, and the Federal Reserve is expected to cut interest rates soon. Normally, these will support the city. The pressure instead is domestic. Remittances are one of Ghana's most reliable sources of dollars, but this year they slowed. Here's why. In April, sending $1,000 got you about 15,000 cedis, enough to buy around 150 bags of cement. By May, the same $1,000 fetched just 10,000 cedis, barely enough for 100 bags. With the money suddenly buying less in Ghana, many senders held back. They bet the city would weaken again. If it did, their transfers would convert into more cedis. This pause in inflows removed a steady cushion for dollars, and it came just as import demand was rising. The structure of Ghana's economy has not changed. Dollars still come mainly from gold, cocoa, oil, and remittances. So when remittances pause, the impact is felt. Imports have also surged. Traders rushed to take advantage of the stronger cedi. They stocked up ahead of the festive season. This added even more pressure on the currency. At the same time, there are signs the Bank of Ghana has cut back dollar supply. Why scale back? The reasons are not fully clear, but there are strong hints. Earlier this year, the IMF warned that the bank was intervening too heavily. It interjected about $1.4 billion in the first quarter alone. In response, the bank pledged to introduce a new framework for interventions. That is due by the end of September. This recent slowdown may be a trial run. Another factor is the gap between the interbank rate and the forex bureaus. While banks traded the cedi at 10 cedis 30 pesos to the dollar, bureaus were trading at 11 or even 12 cedis. Allowing some depreciation on the official side may be the bank's way of closing that gap. The wide difference was distorting the market. Meanwhile, the bank is also tightening foreign currency rules and demanding stricter paperwork before importers can access forex. For now, with gold prices above $3,500 per ounce and foreign reserves above $11 billion, the bank still has the firepower to steady the market. But heavy intervention is never a lasting solution unless gold prices stay high for a very long time or the structure of the economy changes. This same debate over the cedi will keep coming back.
Welcome back to a business roundtable discussion. We've assembled some of the finest brains you can have in the country when it comes to the economy to help us understand, what are the gains, how do we make sure that all of us are really getting the benefit of the gains in the economy. Joining us in studio today, we have Frederick Emisa. He's a technical advisor at the Ministry of Finance. Fred, good morning to you. Great. I hope that you help us understand what's happening at the ministry.
We'll try.
And to see how we can all benefit from it.
Yes.
Okay. Joe Jackson is someone who has been in the area for some time. He's been there a long time, right? He's the CEO of Deluxe Finance. And when it comes to the economy, the good and bad, he knows. He's been speaking about it for a long time. Uncle Joe, good morning.
Good morning. Good to be here.
Good to have you. We have Apia Latte, his partner, financial advisory, Juliet Ghana. He is joining us on Zoom, so we'll join him later. Professor Japoma Jekedako. Did I get your name right?
Jekedako.
Jekedako, okay. She's an economist with the University of Ghana Business School. Good to have you.
I'm happy to be here.
Mark Bedu Abuaje is CEO, Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Good morning.
Morning.
All good?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then inside.
You there inside. And then we go to the trader, Joseph Paddy. Good morning, sir.
Morning.
All good?
Yes, very good.
Okay.
So far, so good.
Okay. Let me start with Prof. Prof, 1 year, 4 months or 16 months of the John Mahama administration, John Mahama II. What will you say have been the gains in the economy?
Right. So, first of all, I'll say that we have moved from managing crisis to a point where we are actually managing recovery. And I say this on the basis that macroeconomic stability has largely been successful, but then maybe the transmission of that success to, should I say, households and firms is what is taking some time. Even that, I think that some firms are experiencing some large successes. Now, the game changer here has been the exchange rate, in my opinion. The stability that we are experiencing with the exchange rate has changed everything. Because if you think about it carefully, looking at the Iran and the American war, yes, because of that, the Strait of Hormuz has been closed, etc. But we are not really feeling the pain that we would have felt if the exchange rate was troubled in a way. And so I would say that the exchange rate stability has been the game changer. And we know that for the first time since, I think, 1994, we've seen an appreciation of the exchange rate. We saw it in 2025 of about 41%. And year on year in 2026, we are seeing roughly about 27%. And this is largely being driven by the gold purchase program, I would say, where Bank of Ghana has been able to build quite a lot of reserves. Close to about 6 months of import cover is what we have currently. And I think that this has ensured credibility. It has also kept speculative activities because Bank of Ghana is able to, should I say, intermediate easily because it's built some reserves. Now, this same exchange rate stability has helped in inflation control, right? So the spiral in inflation that we have been seeing it's actually gone down. We now have inflation around about 3.2% or so, which is extremely good for us because at least prices are stable. Bank of Ghana activities in terms of open market operations have also been very helpful, although that has come at a cost. And I believe that no policy intervention comes without a cost. And that was necessary, that cost in addressing the inflationary pressures that we had in terms of mopping up excess liquidity from the economy was very, very crucial. And so, I mean, if you think about it, with exchange rate stable, with inflation also down to about 3%, at least there's some certainty in the environment. Businesses are able to plan, households even are able to plan. So there have been some gains. Yes. I'm sorry. Yes.
If you listen to all that Prof has given, it means something positive is happening. Behind the what we can all see, how really did the ministry and the government do this? Just in a minute.
Thank you very much. You can see that Prof was trying to let us know, or was stopped short of praising the government for the economic miracle that we have experienced. And I would love to say a miracle because all these have been achieved in 1 year. If you look at the numbers, how they've been turned around, I mean, from day to night. And let me give you a bit of background. It doesn't happen. You know, if you listen to the Dr. Atufossen's, vetting, he mentioned 3 things that will be his focus: exchange rates, prices, jobs. And one thing he said was that he was going to move from the overconcentration of macroeconomy to the microeconomy. But the path to the impacts on the microeconomy is through macro stability. That is what we are experiencing now. The first thing we did was to stabilize the economy. I mean, the figures are there. I don't want to bore you with those figures. But a lot of the talk now is about what has been the impacts on the individual, on the household, on the businesses. Guta and the chamber will tell you, Ghana reference rates, which is the proxy for determining how banks are willing to lend to their best of customers, was hovering around 30% at the end of the year. As we speak, it is 10%. Businesses are now
So that 1 minute is almost done.
No, what I'm trying to say is that businesses, the effect is that we are having businesses borrowing at a cheaper cost.
Okay.
Households are experiencing lower prices. You see, even though inflation is still positive, last year, Guta presented a paper to Parliament. Over 4,000 items have seen reduced prices. Prices actually reducing. Of course, inflation is a composite. So the impact is that we are actually experiencing reduced prices, and you can tell when you go and buy fuel at the pump.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Let me bring in Joe Jackson. Joe, let's look at what is happening. Your intro remarks in a minute about the economy, 16-month on.
Let's all be clear here. The fact that the numbers have improved is not in dispute. And so what we have seen is stabilization. And what we are asking is, have we moved beyond stabilization? Because stabilization is not an end to itself. It must transmit into better livelihoods. But what is also happening is not strange, because it takes time to move from stabilization to transformation. So maybe this whole discussion should be around, are we seeing deliberate moves, intentional events that will lead us to believe that this translation from stabilization to transformation is happening? That's really, because if you talk about jobs, that's the weakest link. We are still not creating enough jobs for the young people of this country. We're not even creating enough jobs. So for me, the question really is, what is being done on transformation? Everybody has to, unless you are really the witch, you can't help but say this government has achieved stabilization.
All right.
Then that is almost now a given. We've accepted that. We've given them credit for that, and nobody can take that away. The only question is, what is being done for transformation? Because stabilization in itself was not the end game.
Okay. I'm grateful to you for your thoughts there, Mark Bedwabodi. Let me bring you now here. 1 minute.
Well, for businesses, stability is very critical for everything that we do. And on that score, looking at numbers, I think there have been positive and significant improvement in the macroeconomic indicators. I think that is not accidental, it's not just by chance. I have seen more deliberate and policy coordination between the monetary policy and the fiscal policy. We also have the external conditions also favoring us. So in terms of the numbers, we have done well. I mean, to drop inflation from where it was to 3.2, you need a high level of commitment. And of course, we've also seen a significant drop in the policy rate from 28 to 14%. Interest rate is coming down, but we still think that is very high. And when we are having this discussion, because we operate in an international market, we're integrated internationally, we should be able to compare ourselves to our peers, people that we are competing with. Because businesses, we don't produce only for Ghanaians. We produce for the external market. So we are competing with products coming from other regions. In fact, if you look at our Francophone neighbors, their policy rate is 3.2. There could be an explanation for that because they tie their monetary policy conditions to that of France and all other indicators. But they are the ones we are competing with. If their policy rate is that low, and their interest rate is that low, and you are, of course, we've seen a reduction. You are paying, they say, 17.5. That is fine. But we still think that is very high. He made mention of the Ghana reference rate, and always want to link it to the inflation rate. If you have a reference rate of 11 point something or so, 10%, and your inflation is at 3.2, I still see a mismatch in there. I want to see a very closer relationship between the inflation and the lending rate. Of course, exchange rate, as you said, is very significant. It's still a very critical role. Look at all the numbers that we experience now.
We'll get into the nitty-gritties of the whole issues yet, but let me come to you, Mr. Paddy, for your 1 minute.
Yes. I think the economic condition we find ourselves now is healthy for businesses. Yes, it helps you to do projection. It also gives you predictability. Unlike once upon a time where it's difficult to project. And as a business, if you're not able to do projection, you'll be out of business. So it's a healthy condition, healthy for us because of the stability of the cedi against the major currencies, where every morning you wake up in the morning, tomorrow the dollar is 12 against the cedi, the next 3 to 4 hours is changed. So, but this one has given us a way to do projection. This stability is healthy for businesses. Okay. So, as a result of that, we'll come to other factors too that we think is helping businesses, and then we'll see the way forward. But so far, so good. Business community, we've seen some signal stability, and we are plowing back those gains into our business again. Because if the exchange was 1 to 7, 17 Ghana cedis, and now is about 10.5. You have made some savings of about 6,000. So that system can be plowed back into your business. So it's a healthy business environment for the business community. Yes.
Thank you very much, Joseph Paddy, the Gota Vice President. Let me go on to Zoom now and bring in Yao Apia Latte. He is a partner, financial advisory at Deloitte Ghana. Yao, I'm told you do have some presentation of a story you want to show us. So I'll give you 3 minutes to do that for us, and then we can come back into the studio.
Okay, so thank you very much. Let me know if you can see my screen.
Yeah, we can.
Yes. So I'll set the conversation in context, and I like the preliminary comments that has come from the panel. Good morning to you, your cherished listeners and viewers as well. So some of the key developments that we've seen are positive, but the question, and I think the question that we need to answer is, how has this translated into the lives of businesses, households, and then, let's say, industries? So we've seen good indications like the inflation rate now at 3.2%, GDP growth, continued disinflation, the Ghana interbank reference rate, as in the reference rate for interest rate that you charge on loans and advances, and then stabilization of the cedi. I think the question we need to ask ourselves is, have we built a robust and resilient economy? And I think the last few months, what has happened, particularly with the global development and its effect on Ghana, has come to ask us the biggest question, whether we built a stable economy, but is it resilient? And so, yes, the indicators are looking good. If you look at where the government took off from 2024, all the parameters, GDP growth, 5.7, they took off from 5.7, they ended 2025 at 6%. And also, major indicators like inflation, they took off from 23.8%, and currently, or they ended 2025 at inflation of 5.4% and now 3.2%. Also, gross international reserves, they took off from 9.1 billion gross international reserves. They ended 2025 at 13.8 billion, and today it's about 14.5 billion. That's a remarkable improvement. Debt to GDP ratio, they took off from 61.8% of GDP. They ended 2025 at 45.3%. So that's a significant reduction, even better than the benchmark that was set for us by the IMF at 55%. Same trade surplus, they took off from 3.7 billion. As at 2025, trade surplus was 13.7 billion. So these are very good indicators. Now, if you look at the growth rates, this is the question that we need to ask ourselves. We have recorded remarkable growth rate of averagely 6% in the last 4 or 5 quarters of the year. So from 2025 to date, so the last 4 quarters, we've recorded a growth rate of approximately 6%. Now, where is the growth rate coming from? The growth is coming from mainly and largely services sector. So the significant drivers of growth are information and communication, financial services, transport and storage. Look at the first quarter of 2025, same, the 3 sectors, information technology, financial services, transport sector. If you go to the second quarter, information technology, education, health, and financial services. If you go to the third quarter of 2025, information technology, transportation, and a few in growth and fission. Information technology, transportation, education, same.
The sectors that have lagged or that have contracted, which are the key drivers of economic growth, are 1, water and sewage. Electricity, water, construction are the key drivers of growth. So if you have challenges with electricity, if you have challenges with water, if you have challenges in the construction sector, your growth will lag. So we contracted by 3.7% in the first quarter of 2025. We contracted same in the forestry and logging sector by 2.5%. If you go to the second quarter of 2025, our oil and gas sector contracted by 22.5%. Followed by mining and quarry, which also carries a lot of the employment, also contracting by 1.8%. Third quarter of 2025, the oil and gas sector contracted by another 18.2%. Followed by mining, you have health and social work, and then another sector that drives economic growth, mining and quarry, also contracting. The fourth quarter of 2025, the oil and gas sector also contracted again by 16.8%. Water and sewage also contracting. Recent report that has been issued by NDPC showed that in the last about 13 or 12 to 13 years, the sectors that are supposed to be driving economic growth has seen significant decline. Manufacturing sector has seen decline. Construction sector has seen decline. Electricity and water service sector has also seen decline. And their contribution to GDP has significantly reduced. Lastly, on this slide, you see unemployment rate. So our unemployment rate has stayed largely flat because the development that I've just projected clearly shows that, yes, there's growth, but the growth is not creating jobs. So yes, we are having jobless growth. So the growth is happening in a sector or sectors that are not generating jobs. And so you see on unemployment, it's still staying flat. So it's just a steady reduction in unemployment. We are not having significant reduction in unemployment. Same with employment. We are not having significant increase in employment, just a steady increase in employment because of the picture that I've just painted, that the growth that we are seeing is a growth that is not creating jobs. So we have it as jobless growth because the sectors that are supposed to drive economic growth are lagging or are contracting. That means that you are growing, but you are not creating jobs. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for this. Let me bring you Joe Jackson here, because if we are making gains, but it's not leading to the sectors where the jobs will be created, then there's a problem. How do we solve it? Or what is really accounting for the growth happening, but they're not happening in the critical sectors that can give us the jobs?
Now, one of the things that has delivered our growth has been discipline. Iron discipline on the part of our fiscal, on our Ministry of Finance. And listen, it is admirable. But the problem with this discipline is that it actually also mitigates against the kind of job growth that you are looking for. Because what we've delivered, listen, if inflation has come down, I would tell you that the biggest driver has been the improvement in the
exchange rate.
In the exchange rate. If the reference rates have come down, it is the iron discipline exercised when we go to borrow money, not taking more than we actually need and not taking it at a rate higher than we've predetermined. So in truth, that's why stabilization is important, and we've heard over and over again everybody say this, the stability helps businesses. But there's also tension between what has created that stability and the real things that will drive increased employment. I can plan better, but do I plan to employ more people? I can know what is happening. I can admire the fact that we've had a significant external shock in the closing of the Strait of Hormuz. But has that, resisting that shock, what has this done for other things that we could do? Everybody is complaining. Contractors are not getting paid. The government is not spending as much money as it could. Now, that expenditure will help drive jobs.
But government says it is spending in the right areas.
Obviously, and listen, I'm a fiscal hawk. I believe in spending within your means and borrowing only when it is absolutely necessary for investment. So I agree. Listen, more than anybody else, I applaud that discipline. But I'm also admitting that same discipline there's a tension between that discipline and the translation of the stability into jobs and the real and jobs and growth in jobs. And we need to look at that issue and say, how do we move from stability to start to really create the jobs that we need? We may have to start picking sectors and being intentional and deliberate about funding those sectors so that they can start to deliver the jobs. It's not going to happen as a natural consequence of the stability because there's tension.
But if that intervention will lead into the collapse of some of the improvement we've had in some indicators, should government go ahead?
Listen, whatever happens, we're in crisis. This is a pathway of a balancing act. It's a high wire act. We have to realize that if we spend more, of course, the discipline goes away and we'll lose some of the gains. If we don't spend at all, we will have the discussion we are having now. So there's a balancing act. The issue is this. Maybe we should also not expect as much as we are at the moment. There will always be a lag between stability and the growth. We are enjoying this growth. We are praising the stability. We are applauding the discipline. Should we be asking at this moment that immediately it should translate into jobs?
Okay.
We should know what is happening and we should be saying, what are you doing to get us into the jobs that need to be created? But maybe we shouldn't, after 16 months, be expecting too much.
Okay. All right. Let me bring in Mark. Industry. When you look at what's happening and why they say you're not creating the jobs, why do you think that is so? Because you're borrowing at a cheaper rate, and so that your savings should translate into you employing more people. Why is it not happening?
Well, so the transmission mechanism takes some time, moving from the macro to the micro. Now we've done the macro. It's about time we move to the micro. The numbers that we have seen are all critical, they are all good. But there are also structural issues that must be addressed before we transition from the macro to the micro. That structural issues are still persisting. Okay. That's the reason why we are not seeing this. Now, if you see inflation that we have now, largely a lot of it came from the monetary side, which requires that there should be some level of contraction. So to speak, Bank of Ghana assume there is a lot of money in the system and is mopping up liquidity, which means that the purchasing power of an ordinary person largely will go down. It means so businesses would want to produce, they want people to buy. As people say, there's no money in our pocket. So we produce, and the rate at which we want people to buy, they are not buying because there's no money. So that contraction, of course, will affect demand for goods and services. Okay. And let's also understand that every macroeconomic or every economic policy comes with a cost. So we need to ask ourselves, do a cost-benefit analysis and ask, is the inflation that we have at 3.2, is it good for production? That's why Bank of Ghana has a target, not economic activity. This inflation, as I said, largely for monetary. But if you also want to have a sustained inflation at a lower level, what you need to do is to look at the cost of production. Anytime cost of production is high, inflation will go up. So people are not feeling it. They are still saying prices are still high because the cost of production is still high.
Why is it so high?
If you look at the inflation figures, in fact, the cost for locally manufactured goods, inflation for locally manufactured goods between February and March increased from 4.5 to 4.9. If you look at the inflation for imported products, it reduced from 0.6% to negative 0.6%, which means that if you import a product and you sell, you'll be able to sell it at a price lower than what is being produced locally. And the facts are there. The cost of electricity is still very high. In fact, our cost is about 40% higher than even our competitors. That feeds into the cost of production. The transportation is also a challenge. Our roads are still bad, and you still have to pay more to transport your product from one level to another. And also, as we have said, we've seen an important factor regarding taxes. In fact, we must commend the government, but I think that we still have to do more, because the reforms brought down the VAT rate from almost 22% to 20%. Around is still very high. We were asking that at least it comes to about 18% to give us a leeway. And there are a lot of nuisance taxes out. All this add up into a cost of production. So businesses in Ghana, even though the starting point is having a stable environment, we have it, but we still believe that the cost of production is still high. And we can't industrialize if you don't have a reliable and affordable electricity. We want to change the structure of our economy from one that depends largely on import to an industrial economy, and we can never do that. We need to pay particular and deliberate attention to the cost of production. In other jurisdictions, the cost per kilowatt hour for electricity for manufacturing company is less than 5 cents per kilowatt hour. The last time I had a discussion with one of our members, I thought it was 12. He was doing 18 cents per kilowatt hour. You produce, you go into the same market to sell. Right from the start, you are competed in the competition. So we need to look at the transition. It may take some time. And of course, as he said, I think we are too expectant. 16 months, not sufficient to see the impact that we want to see. It's not sufficient for businesses to expand and say we are employing more. It's not sufficient for us to produce and say we are cutting down prices significantly. The transition time is where we are now. The starting point is the stability. Of course, there were a lot of uncertainties within the 2024, but 2025, people as businesses, they are rational businesses. They will not, because this stability is, they will not get up and say, I'm investing. They decided to just stand on the fence and see whether the stability that we enjoy is sustainable. Now we have been able to establish that. I think 2026 will be better, and going forward, we should be able to get good numbers for ourselves.
Great. Grateful to you, Mark. I'll bring in Prof. and Joseph later, but let me go to Finance Ministry. Now, you've listened to industry and the finance guys. The industry especially says that because of the cost of power, for example, we're not able to then compete with the imported goods. And I know what's happening in the rice industry, for example. You produce rice in Ghana, people are not buying it, they are buying the imported ones. What's the Ministry of Finance doing to ensure that that is dealt with to create the needed jobs we need?
I think one thing everybody will agree on this table is that there is significant improvements in the economic figures and everything, and we also agree that there is naturally a lag between when the impact is felt at the micro level. The path to micro impact goes through macro stability. There is no way you can sort of want to impact the lives of your people at the micro level, businesses, firms, individuals, without first stabilizing the economy. So what we did first was stabilize the economy, which stability we are all experiencing. Granted that there is more to be done. I won't sit here and say that we have solved our unemployment problem, no. But the data bears us out that there has been a marginal improvement in employment. I won't say that we have solved our the cost of doing business problem, but producer price inflation has seen a significant reduction. Now in the single numbers. I wouldn't also say that...
But did you hear him when it came to the locally produced
I did. You see, it is the impact. It is the impact we are talking about. It is also where we are coming from. You see, we are getting used, and I'm happy because we are getting used to this stability that we are demanding more. We are demanding more. And sometimes too, when businesses have been battered for so long with inconsistent policies, with macroeconomic instability, when stability happens for over a year, they all want to do a wait-and-see attitude and say that, is this going to last? So we are in that period, that transition period between businesses getting used to the fact that this is the new state of the Ghana economy as opposed to what was being experienced in the past. One thing I would like to say is that we talk about industry, manufacturing, the growth rates and all those things and how it translates to jobs and all those things. Yes, in the days ahead, you see that we are also going to roll out other policies that would ensure that we concretize the stability we have experienced or we have delivered and launch into other transformative programs or impacts. The thing is that
would that include getting power to them at a cheaper rate?
That may include that. I would say that may include that because if you look at for the last 2 windows, PURC has reduced how do you call it? The cost of electricity
across board.
Across board.
Yes.
So you see, so it's a path. There are factors that determine the cost of electricity, including the cost at which the investments were made, which cost is largely, or I mean, one of the huge components is the exchange rate. Mm-hmm. So when the exchange rate naturally improves, you see that the, how do you call it, the basket or whatever average or whatever aggregate there is comes down. What I'm saying is that what we are seeing... Sorry to cut you, but if you listen to him clearly, what he's talking about is the deliberateness of selling power to manufacturers at a certain rate that could help bring down their cost of production, which will lead into them selling at a cheaper rate to be competitive. Because I tell you, 5 bags of rice produced in Ghana cannot sell at the same rate as imported. And that's why rice producers are not able to sell. So the question is, how is government dealing with, for example, power cost to manufacturers? You do agree with me that power cost is not the only cost component of a manufacturing concern. Mm-hmm. So when a policy is being delivered to reduce the cost of doing business in Ghana, it's a whole gamut of policies. Mm-hmm. So that is what is being done to ensure that businesses feel that their costs, or businesses actually feel the impact of the stability we are seeing. I mean, if you look at the Bank of Ghana's business sentiment survey, businesses are now becoming a bit more confident. The AGI president recently said that they are having the biggest, when they do their quarterly survey, they are having the biggest surge in confidence amongst Ghanaian businesses. It shows that the impact or how do you call it, the macro stability we're experiencing now, people or businesses are beginning to respond to it. Like I said, we cannot just move from instability, being used to many, many years of instability, to 1 year or 60 months of stability, and for people to just, just get used to it. It takes time. The transmission takes time. But one thing I can say, one thing I want to say is that even in this moment of transition or in this moment of transmission, we are seeing significant improvements at the micro level. I spoke about actual reduction in prices. Inflation is still positive, but we are seeing actual reduction in prices. I told you that the GUTA presented a paper to Parliament which shows that over 4,000 items have seen significant reduction in prices. Okay. I told you, I mentioned the cost of fuel example. For example, you see, what we also have to know is that businesses will always be businesses. And I'm not trying to impugn any profiteering motive to any business, but businesses will always want to be businesses. So sometimes when the fundamentals bear out that this should lead to some significant improvements in prices or anything, we see some sort of the responsiveness of some businesses not being as, it doesn't match. The Greater Accra Market Women Association, the president, she came out to say that things have improved massively. Coming from market women, coming from business leaders, coming from manufacturers, coming from public servants, coming from all these guys saying that we are seeing an improvement in the economic condition, it must be that something is actually touching their lives. Okay, so what I'm saying is that, yes, the transmission takes time, but currently, as we speak, we are seeing that we are already feeling the stability that we experienced last year and continue to experience.
Okay.
When he spoke about the reduction in the exchange rate and the savings, for a business concern, your savings, which translates to your investment, it doesn't happen overnight. The big push infrastructure project, which we are seeing being rolled out all over the country, the impacts will be felt in some quarters to come. He mentioned that businesses are not being paid. Contractors are not being paid. This is hugely inaccurate, and I don't know where that narrative is coming from. This government last year paid nearly 30 billion Ghana cedis in arrears. If I say arrears, I mean payments that were due up to December 2024 before the Mahama administration came to power. Over nearly 30 billion cedis was paid to contractors. These are projects which have already been executed.
Only contractors. Nearly 30 billion.
Come again.
Nearly 30 billion to only contractors.
Government arrears, but mostly contractors. So what I'm saying is that the narrative that government is not paying contractors, it's something that we should hasten slowly. Okay. But the data...
Okay, help us look at how much did we owe contractors, for example? How much have we paid?
I can get you the figures, but the arrears we took over, it was around 68 billion. When we sent it for audit, I think it came around 45 billion. I mean, there was some rejections and all those things. Give around 45. I'll confirm the figures for you.
To contractors only?
To government arrears. I'm saying government arrears. You see, when we say contractors, you see, contractor is not only the person who is constructing your...
Because you contradicted what he said.
No. I'm trying to provide clarity.
Yes, I'm also trying to get you to give us the clarity. You said it is not accurate that you're not paying contractors. And that's why I said, okay, then help us understand how much we owe contractors, how much have we paid, so that we can all make the conclusion.
Yes, so that's what I'm trying to tell you, that how much we owed contractors is what I've given you. It's nearly 30 billion, which has never happened before. Okay. And I'm trying to say that what we owed against what we paid, it does not bear out the fact that contractors are not being paid. That narrative, we don't know where it is coming from. Contractors are being paid.
Okay.
Especially, and when it comes to big push contractors, they will tell you that those are current expenditures we are making. Big push contractors will tell you that they are getting paid almost promptly. Now, the fact of the matter is that, yes, we believe that employment and all this inflation and all these things must translate into the lives of the people. But what we are saying is that before you get to point A, you should have passed through somewhere. And that's the macro stability. In this period of transition, we are even saying that even as our policies have not taken full effect, we are seeing massive improvements or massive impacts at the micro level. And I've mentioned some things. And what I'm also saying is that, you see, he mentioned the linkage between the GRR and inflation. See that when the GRR, with the inflation now, GRR should be somewhere closer to inflation. The GRR is a composite index for which inflation is one of the indices, one of the determinants of GRR. We have the 91-day T-bill, we have the NPL ratio, we have all these things. If you see that the GRR is coming down, it means that the impacts of inflation, the impacts of the 91-day T-bill, all of them are contributing to the coming down of the GRR. The GRR was, let's not forget, it was almost 30% in December 2024. It is now 10. Businesses were borrowing at 35. They now borrow below 20. In fact, some businesses borrow at GRR, at 10, at 11, at 13. Personal loans are going for around 13%. So if this is not impact, then what is it?
Okay, all right. I'll come back to you. Let me bring in Prof now. Prof, some people have said, well, it looks like the gains in macro are sort of artificial because the appreciation of the cedi was too fast. Where do you stand on that?
Well, I don't want to really buy into the fact that the gains are artificial. Okay. No, because you see, we had a natural resource like gold, and of course the prices of gold are rising on the world market. It's important for you to take advantage of that increase in price and use it to support your economy. So, for example, if you have an institution like Gold Board trying to curb smuggling and then mobilize the gold that it can mobilize to sell on the international market, to be able to get some forex to help stabilize the cedi, for example, I don't see that to be artificial. Okay. This is not to say that those structural issues that we have in the economy, we should not be addressing, because there are also risks when it comes to being reliant on the commodity market. And so if today gold prices went down, then we are going to be in trouble. Cocoa prices have started dwindling, and that might even affect the amount of forex that is coming in. And therefore, the concentration that we need to put on ensuring that we retain the stability that we have should be there. So those structures that we think about all the time, we should try and use this time when we are making those gains to put those structures in place. Okay. And by the structures, I'm talking about many things. Dr. Jackson and I were already talking about the retention policy, where we have to go back and look at it again and make sure that repatriation of profits, we deal with that properly so that our forex can come in. We do export, but like I was saying, we are mostly reliant on primary products. How are we thinking about, because like it was presented not too long ago by Yaolate, our growth is being driven by the services sector. And if you think about it, ICT driving the growth means that we are having there's some sort of low-skill jobs there, low wages, etc. If we really want to be thinking about growth, then we need to be thinking about the industrial sector, particularly manufacturing. What are we putting in place to ensure that manufacturing sector is going to be thriving? This is why Mr. Abuaje was talking about having a conducive environment, right, so that businesses can also thrive in those environments. So I think that the macro is good, but we need to move one step ahead. That transmission will take from 6 to 12 months to happen. I think we are... 6 to 12 months? Yes, about... beyond 16 months, or it should be... Beyond, I'm thinking about beyond 16 months. So 12 months beyond the 16 months? Yes. Okay. And I think that is when we should be looking at whether those gains are going to be sustained or not. So for me, that is my opinion. Let's give it some time for the transmission to occur. Economic gains the micro gains will come in if things remain the way they are currently, but it needs time to translate. But how would the 24-hour economy policy have influenced this? I mean, that was a key policy that the John Mahama campaign gave Ghanaians. If, say, it was implemented about 3-4 months when they came into office, how would it have helped in all that we are discussing, especially in job creation? Well, it would have greatly helped, but like I'm saying, having a 24-hour economy cannot happen overnight. Okay. You need to put certain measures in place. For example, your macro environment should be stable. At the time this government took over, our macros were not really looking good. And of course, that had to be stabilized before any such intervention could happen. And so if you think about the fact that you are going to be having a successful, for example, 24-hour economy, the first thing you should think about is whether there's even going to be demand for the products that the firms are going to be producing. Right? So if a firm, for example, thinks that, and Mr. Abaje will tell you, that if he doesn't think that there's going to be demand for his product, there's absolutely no way he's going to be producing and producing for 24 hours, because that is going to be adding up to the cost. So a stable macro environment is the first point, where maybe if inflation was low, people's purchasing power would be high. There'll be demand for products, and then firms can also go ahead and then produce and then now employ more people. That's the first thing. We also need to think about the infrastructure. We are currently struggling with electricity. We hear that it's being worked on. We can't have a successful 24-hour economy when there's inadequate supply of electricity. And so this 24-hour economy happening 3 months was going to be impossible. Okay. But I agree with you that once it occurs, then jobs can be created. Okay,
let me bring you Mr. Paddy now. Mr. Paddy, so you listen to the producers, they say that once some element have not come down, they cannot also then produce at a certain rate. But according to him, the Queen Mother says prices are coming down. So what is influencing the reduction? Because the local producers are not able to meet the export. What is influencing that, and what can be done for local producers to meet, the prices in the market so they can be competitive?
Exactly. So to be sincere with you, we did a research, and the cost of doing business in the sub-region, Ghana is highest.
Still?
Yeah.
Which year is this?
Yes, about 3 years ago, we did that research. Its cost of doing business in the country is extremely high. What we do is that when the producers produce, we do the distribution for them. But when there's a shortfall, we go out there looking for the shortfall. And in trying to do so, bringing it down, paying the duties and everything, it's still cheaper than that which is produced here. That's the difficulty. So cost of doing business in the country. Why are we losing business to our neighboring countries, like Ivory Coast? Most of factories are moving to Ivory Coast because cost of borrowing there is about 3%. Highest is about 7%. In Ghana, you go and borrow at a certain time, we're borrowing at 35%. No businessman, no one, even those who are into production are now moving into buying and selling. That was the difficulty we found ourselves. And you spoke about this unemployment issue. You see, I believe government responsibility is not to employ. Yes. Government responsibility is to create the enabling environment for the private. We always say private sector is the engine of growth. We say it theoretically, but when it comes to implementation and practical, it's not so. So what should government do to give us enabling environment so that the private sector can rope in more people, so that we can be self-employed? Looking at affordable credit, like my brother said, cheaper electricity. If a young man has finished school and want to go into production, can he get affordable credit to do business? What are the exemptions area we have here? Can he give him 5 years exemption when he want to go into production? These are some of the things we are looking forward from government, but we do. But most times, when we are talking of unemployment, we look at the public sector. Now you go to one public sector office, about one desk, about 15 people are sitting on there, on one desk. So the public sector is so choked that we are not even looking at the private. What can we do so that the private sector can rope all these unemployed graduates that we've been talking about, so that they can be self-employed? So these are the things we expect government to be doing. Because every business grows on policy. Okay. One good policy can help you grow. So what are government doing to give us those enabling policies and enabling environment? So we have a challenge with producers, not because why will I travel 9 hours, at times 3 days to Japan, to go and look for goods to bring to the shortfall? Maybe the quantity demand is about 10,000. Supply in Ghana is about 4,000. There's a shortfall of 6,000. I'll go out there to go and look for that shortfall to complement what they are doing here. And it's still cheaper, far cheaper, at times even 3 times cheaper than that which is produced here. So there's a mismatch. There's a mismatch that we need to bridge the gap. What can we do so producers can be competitive to our neighbors or to their competitors? So when you go out there, you go to Togo and buy something at 2 cities, you come to Ghana, get it. But why is it that you want to borrow in Ghana to go and go into production? I have a brother who wanted to go into production of wall nails, the nails we use for roofing. He bought the machinery, started the production, and the cost of electricity and other factors were so high that he stopped the production, started importing nails from China. So, and he had employed over 120 people. So these are the difficulty we find ourselves as a country. What can government do so that the young one who has come out from school, who says, I'm an entrepreneur, what environment have you created for that young gentleman? Can you go to the commercial banks to go and borrow at a cheaper rate? Now the commercial banks are giving us a rate about 17%, which we think is a little far better than even some of the banks have given assurance that they want to even drop it about 6 to 7% interest rate. When it happens, oh yes.
But what is preventing them from doing it?
A little skepticism. They're a little skeptical. They want to see the sustainability. These sources that we are talking, is it sustainable? We even the business community, we're even finding it difficult to reduce our goal at a certain time. Because we're looking at, is this sustainable? Is this exchange rate that has dropped so much? Is it sustainable? So let's watch and see attitude. But looking at about 15 months, they've been able to sustain it. So you see that there's a significant reduction of price of goods and services in the market.
So in this reduction, is it influenced by the import or the ones you buy from Mr. Bedua?
It's influenced by import, to be sincere, because still our producers are still struggling to produce at a certain margin because electricity is high, water is high, and other factors of production are not on their side.
Okay.
So when we go out there, it's still cheaper than that which is produced, to be sincere with you. And that is the challenge we have. Like I was saying, what would be the sense if I have to travel 3 days to Japan to go and look for the one I can get it here? If it's 15 cities here, and I can get it in Japan for 12 cities, I will even want to stay here. Looking at transport fare, your ticket, your hotel bills, and other factors put together, and the time you spend, why would you want to travel? And so what can we do to build the capacity of our producers? So that they can match up and they can be competitive. You know, we have lost ball pen to our neighboring country, Ivory Coast. They've moved from Ghana to Ivory Coast. Oh yes, they are no longer here. They've been to this country. It's cheaper to produce in Ivory Coast than this place. I traveled to Ivory Coast and their interest rate was around 3 to 7%.
Okay, all right. Let me bring in Mr. Apia Latte now. I'll bring in Joe Jackson. I'll bring you later. But let me bring in Apia Latte. So you've listened to manufacturers, you've listened to the sellers, you've listened to Prof as well and Joe Jackson too, and the man from the Ministry of Finance. Listening to the trader and the manufacturer, what do you think government should do now? Because from them, if government should find a way to reduce the cost of production, cost of goods produced in Ghana will come down, and that also lead to job creation because they will need more people.
I think the point about transmission mechanism is important because a lot of this stability that we're experiencing now, in some areas, it will take a bit of time for us to see it reflected. There are about 1 or 2 developments in the market or in the economy, which I think is positive and actually going to help a lot of business in the past. Because what has happened in the past is that it affected businesses adversely. And now, because of the correction that we've seen in the system, we are going to see the positive impact. The first one is on stability in economic policy and reforms. Historically, at the presentation of any budget and government policy statement, a new tax is introduced or existing tax are amended. That created uncertainty in the business environment. So if we have new tax or budget presented, you would have e-levy, there will be introduction of VAT, some form of taxes or amendment to existing law. And so businesses were worried about that because what happened at the time was that as soon as a budget is presented, there is a cost that's incurred to recalibrate your system because a new tax has been introduced or an existing tax has been amended. Now, what has happened in the last few years is that there has been stability in government policy, particularly in the fiscal areas or tax reforms. So you don't expect a new tax to be introduced. It is the existing tax laws that are enforced or implemented differently to make them effective. And that's very good because for businesses, what they don't want is that if you project or you forecast your business to grow by a certain percentage over the next 5 years, when a tax is introduced or a new policy is introduced and it affectly affects your revenue, it means that you are not able to achieve that target. The second thing is government's bold step in removing some tax handles. And I think that was the first government budget that was presented. That sent a positive signal to the business community, and I think we should commend government for that. The third is also about the VAT reforms. Yes, it took a bit longer for the consultation to happen and for government to boldly implement it. But I think it's making our business environment a lot more competitive than what it used to be. Decoupling and then just making it a lot more flexible. Now, you can predict even with certainty that the pass-through effect will not be as massive as it was before. Because if you cannot claim your NHIL and your GET fund that you are paying, what we were doing at the time was to tax on tax. So if you buy something at a time that was costing 100 Ghana cedi, your NHIL and then your GET fund cost at 5% will be added at 105 before the VAT is taxed on it. Now, that's not the case. The tax is on the entire percentage of 20% is on the cost amount at 100, and that takes you to 120. You can always predict that. So that's the coupling thing that we had created uncertainty in the business environment. And then for households, something that happened, which at the time also created some problems or challenges, particularly for household, is what I would like to present here. Is at the time, we had inflation going way above almost 54%. What happened at the time was that if inflation was at 54%, returns on government security was at 21%, and the monetary policy rate was about 24%, we were getting a negative return on your investments. So that was a disincentive for households to invest. Okay. That was a disincentive for households to put their investment in government securities. Now that has been corrected, and you realize that with time, and that's what we call the transmission mechanism. It took time for some policy measures to be to reflect in some of these initiatives. So as you can see, that has been corrected, where inflation is now at 3.2%. Return on government security, it's hovering around, let's say, 10%, and then you have monetary policy at 14%. What it means is that if you make any investment in government security, or you make any form of investment that's over and above the 3.2%, you are getting a positive return. Whereas historically, we were getting negative return. So those corrective measures has really helped. And I think it just backtracks the point that the transmission mechanism will take time. Okay. But our policy initiatives should be drastic enough and more effective to see the effect coming soon, because we don't have the luxury of time. We have some headwinds that are coming at us, particularly looking at what's happening in the global economy. And so if you don't correct this, businesses will not get the benefit in a longer time.
I'm grateful to you. Let me bring in Joe Jackson here. Joe, I don't know, listening to all the issues around how we can make the local producer competitive, what's your suggestion as well from the banking perspective?
Okay. Now, before I even talk about the banking perspective, one of the things that we are not really recognizing is the policy trade-offs that are that are occurring, and maybe we are not even being very honest about those policy trade-offs. I'll give you an example. One of the things that's been clearly, Sebedu Abuaja has clearly indicated that manufacturing is more expensive. That is a trade-off from our policy of the cedi appreciating. Because when the cedi appreciates, it immediately makes importation attractive and cheaper. So in a sense, are we surprised that this is happening? And it's a trade-off. Of course, the cedi appreciating has other benefits. But what we should man up and say that, listen, whilst the cedi appreciates, of course, our debt has dropped because there's a significant foreign component. The cedi has appreciated, so fuel has improved, fuel prices have improved, other things have improved. But you see, what has improved? The prices of imported items. Our local production has suffered. So what we have here is a policy trade-off. And we must admit that there's a cost to it. And that it will take time for things to stabilize and accept before we can get to the point where manufacturing has adjusted. The other thing is about our infrastructure.
Before you get there, can a local manufacturer wait till that long to also have that impact to be competitive on the market?
The issue is that he used a term that I like. He said, you can't get to the transformation we need without walking through stabilization. That is just the cost of the crisis we had.
Okay.
We just had to stabilize. And anybody who says the stabilization, it is a necessary precondition before we can have a transformation process working. So, and there's some policy trade-offs. There were always going to be hard decisions to be taken. One of the hard decisions to be taken is that if you bring down the
price of your good,
the rates, the cedi appreciates.
Okay, the exchange rate.
The exchange rate, there is going to be a trade-off. There's going to be a cost. In fact, if you remember, about 9 to 10 months ago, there was even a debate whether should the target be 10 or should the target be 12 or 13. And that was the real discussion was that where is 10 too harsh a trade-off, or is 12, 13 the better target to mitigate the effects on other sectors. Remember that even when we talk about cocoa and the discussion about the cocoa price, part of that discussion is also a price about exchange rates. Exchange rates. That if this is all I'm getting in cedis, how much can I give you? Even if I want to give you 80%, it is still a certain value in cedis compared to what you were getting before. So there's always a trade-off, and we should accept the trade-off. We should accept that there's going to be time. We need a little bit of time. What we also need is to see the big things that are going to transform and make
local manufacturers,
industry and co-competitive. They are happening apace. The biggest thing we see, and the biggest transformation, is this 24-hour economy. But 24-hour economy is not something that's going to happen overnight. It's not. In fact, here again, there's a little bit of tension between the slogan about
one job, 3 shifts.
One job, there's 3 shifts. There's a little bit of tension between that and the reality of the document which we've seen. That document is excellent, but it is about a structural transformation. It doesn't happen overnight. And so there are, if you ask me, the biggest thing is let's accept the trade-offs. And let's bring down our expectations a little bit. It's not, stabilization needed to happen. Right? And there were some major trade-offs. Everybody who's smiling at a 10.5 to cedis to $1 should also be asking, what is the cost of that 10.5? And if you ask me, we've performed much better than some of us ever thought.
All right. You were going to do some. You're going to take
a little bit on the lending, right? It's important to understand that the fact that GRR is at 10%, well, lending rates will come down. But guess what? They will only come down for the most what I call the A-class, first-class borrowers. A lot of other people will find that rate is not as kind and as nice as it seems. Of course, if you're a salaried worker in a stable environment at a certain level, they will lend to you at 13 and 14 and 15 or whatever. But when you go outside that class, go outside the A class, and you will find that life is not even so much the rate that is being given to you as whether you can even get it or not. And one of the things we must admit is that the onus is not only on the government or the financial institutions. There's some responsibility to be borne by industries in that they have to clean up. They have to be credit friendly.
Okay.
So there's you see, in that whole crisis-free environment, a lot of us did a lot of things that today you got to go start thinking of yourself differently. How do I make myself more friendly to the person who wants to give me money?
Okay. But we hear some of you are now tilted towards buying government bonds and giving money to industry.
Oh no, that should be not true.
I mean, T-bills.
The matter is that government bonds are not as lucrative.
T-bills. I mean,
T-bills are not as lucrative as they used to be.
Yes,
because they perceive businesses as
but no. A report came out.
But let me tell you something. The one thing I can guarantee is that you're going to get a knock on your door from your banker who wants to now engage with you.
We are waiting for that.
Yes, it's going to happen. Make sure you are prepared. Your bank will knock on your door.
All right. Okay.
There's one point that I wanted to make, just to add to what Dr.
Mr. Jackson, don't let DTF come after me, I beg you.
What Mr. Jackson has said, it's also about borrower character, and that's why he said we should make ourselves friendly to the banks, right? And because of the high NPLs, we see that interest rates are dropping. BOG has done its best by bringing down the NPL that has transmitted into GRR and therefore lending rate. But then banks, the question we need to ask ourselves is whether banks themselves are even willing to lend. And it all boils down to the character of the borrower, right? So I was very excited when I heard that BOG was going to be publishing the names of defaulters, for example. At least it brings in some confidence, and you're not going to be having borrowers borrowing from different institutions and not being able to pay. Yes, being able to pay. So I think we need to also work on that. And then we need to work on our credit bureau system. Very, very important.
Thank you. Fred has to come in.
Because you are talking about borrowers.
Yes.
So anytime the interest rate is very high, you see NPL, the non-performing also going up. Because if you are going to borrow at 35%, I need to invest in the business that will give me a return more than the 35% to be able to pay. And those businesses are high-risk areas. So there are a lot of losses. You bought 35, you go invest thinking you get more than 35, and the business collapses because of the high risk in those areas. So we are happy the lending rate is lending rate is coming down. Once you get to a lower lending rate, I'm sure that businesses will be willing. I mean, who will go and borrow as a business person and say, I don't want to pay? Because tomorrow I'll come back to you and ask for more money. But sometimes the circumstances are such that you cannot pay. And you know, the banks are such also that when they give you money, and of course, I don't know whether it's structural, our banks are so obsessed with giving short-term loans. But as businesses and manufacturers, we need long-term facilities. So what is happening, I'm telling you, is that somebody who has a project that will take 5 years, and the bank is not willing to give you money for 5 years at a lower interest rate, I'll go and borrow short and use to finance my long-term project, which I cannot pay because the returns will not come on time. So all these things, they come together, and I think that you set the right framework, the right environment for that, and I'm sure going forward, things will be better.
Okay, so you've listened to all of them.
Yes.
Give us a way forward.
Taking from what Mr. Agyeman says, going forward, things will be better, and that's very instructive to hear. And the data we have, or the data that is publicly available from the Ghana Statistical Service, the Bank of Ghana, really doesn't suggest that there is that trade-off between the appreciation of the cedi and manufacturing growth. Yes, we are seeing a depressed growth in industry overall. Manufacturing grew by over 6% in the last quarter of 2025.
Manufacturing.
over 6% in the last quarter of 2025. What we are seeing rather is that the measures we are putting in place, rather giving people confidence. We are seeing even a reversal of the manufacturing flights, which we experienced sometimes past. Okay. When you have VAT being reduced, okay, making the GET Fund and NHIL deductible, when you have stability in your currency, when you have improvements you are seeing in the road network, when you are seeing reduction in inflation, when you are seeing all this, it points to one fact that the cost of doing business is reducing. And it is reflective in the confidence the AGI, members of AGI are expressing. They have recorded their highest confidence index that they have. I mean, the AGI president is the one who said it, at 116% or so. What we are saying is that, yes, we know that we have to do more. Yes, we have to do more. Ghanaians are getting used to the stability we have experienced, just as they were almost getting used to the instability. It takes time for the adjustment to happen. I mean, if you take over a car which is off track, it will take time for you to stabilize it and bring it back on track. Okay. But I'm saying that in this period of what we are trying to do, or the stability we are trying to achieve, we have seen significant improvement. And the average lending rate we speak about is not what the big businesses are getting. It is what the everyday businessman is getting. Yes. At the rate of? Oh, I'm telling you the average. I mean, the average is below 20%. And I'm saying that when the average was 35% and it is now below 20%, look at the reduction. Okay, so we are seeing that, yes, there is supposed to be an improvement, and that is what we strive for. The governor said that he looks for a time where business will be borrowing below 10. If we are above 30 and we have come below 20, we are tending downwards. So every indicator, and I will encourage Guta to do another survey of the cost of doing business, which they did 3 years ago, which showed that Ghana was the highest. I will encourage them to do again, because the factors or the fundamentals have fundamentally changed. So what I'm saying is that manufacturing trade-off, that we say that the cedi appreciation has had a negative effect on manufacturing. The data doesn't seem to suggest that. I'm not saying it's not true, but I'm saying that based on what we are seeing, it doesn't seem to suggest that. Maybe the data, the people who collect the data should go back again. What we are rather seeing is that it is actually enabling manufacturing. Okay. That's what we are rather seeing. Okay. Per the data we are seeing. Okay. Per the data from statistical survey, we already see it's enabling, because what it is that most of the inputs of production, most of the manufacturing inputs we use here are imported. Yeah. And if they are imported, and you see the cost of imported inflation being lower, or even being a deflation, it means is that inputs of production are reducing. That is why PPI is now in the single digits. So there is actually a positive correlation between their cedi appreciation and improvements in the manufacturing. But have you tried to find out why local producers cannot compete with them? No. See, this is a long standing. You see, let me tell you, even US, even the almighty United States of America, they employ what we call legal antitrust measures to fend off Chinese, manufacturers. Yeah. See, let's be very frank. China cannot compete us in the production of cocoa. No, they are getting there. We are speaking now. Okay. China cannot compete us in the production of certain items. Let's be very fair. We cannot produce at the same cost steel. We can't produce steel at the same cost that China produces. There's something simple in economy called economies of scale. China is over 1 billion. They are about 1.5 billion. So their need, even if they are producing for their local economy alone, their local needs alone would mean that they are able to scale up, therefore reducing average cost. You understand? So I'm not saying that we shouldn't strive for the best, but I'm saying that per what we engage, per what we want to practice, an open economy, a small open economy, wanting to engage with the outside sector, with the outside other countries, there are certain goods that unfortunately, we may not have a comparative or competitive advantage in producing. It doesn't mean, okay, that doesn't mean that as a whole, we should just raise our hands in despair and say that we are not going to work. But that's why I'm saying that all these things we are doing, the stability in the exchange rate, the stability in prices, the stability even in the power supply. I mean, we mentioned, yes, the stability in the power supply. We mentioned that we have some intermittent power supply, but we all know why. We all know why, where for so many years there had been underinvestment in our, where we took some time, we took some efforts, we made some efforts in the generation capacity, but where our transmission and our distribution sector, where we saw some huge underinvestment. It will take time, it will take a few months to get all these things done. And when all these things are done, we are going to see the stability. We see industry having a depressed, a depressed growth. A depressed growth because oil output or our oil growth is actually negative. So that's having the overall effects. So even though manufacturing is growing, overall industry is growing higher than overall industry because of the impacts of our hydrocarbon industry. So what I'm saying is that, yes, there is a bit of lag between when policies take effect and the impact it has on the people. But even in this period, we are seeing a significant reduction in first of all, the cost of doing business, the cost of borrowing for the ordinary Ghanaian, the prices, actual prices that the Ghanaians pay on the market on some goods and services. So we are saying that Ghanaians, get used to this. This is how we are going to run the economy. This is how the economy is going to be. So if you are a business, you are adopting a wait and see attitude, others may take advantage of it and have a first mover advantage. Can invest, the economy is not going to derail. All the measures, all the stability we are seeing are things we have enshrined in law. That the debts, we have established a debt rule, a fiscal rule, and all these things. These are things we have enshrined in law. So a different finance minister cannot do otherwise than to run a primary surplus on commitment basis for 1.5% for the next foreseeable future. So the discipline has been enshrined in law, and it will make it illegal for anybody or any finance minister or any president, so to say, to want to derail the efforts or the stability that we have painfully gained.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. Now, we are getting a lot of reactions, and so we've been given an hour extension to continue the show because a lot of more people are watching. But I'll come to you, I know, but this one says, Kojo, my name is Honorable Alexander Kwesi Akwa, MP for Achim Oda. Listening to you now, and I was attracted to the priorities of government for jobs. How do we create jobs if we spend so much to create new market just to make them 24-hour markets? When we can expand or spend those same monies on some of the Agenda 111 hospitals, which can directly employ a lot of healthcare workers. But I have a question to you, Frederick. Frederick, and I know that there are moves to build the 24-hour market. We've also said here that because of power supply and some issues, 24-hour as a policy itself cannot start today, right? So what is the reasoning behind the intent to build 24-hour market?
You see, markets itself is a meeting point. A market is a meeting point.
Yeah.
And when a meeting point of buyers and sellers, buyers of goods and services, sellers of goods and services, is structured in a particular way that will allow for a round-the-clock functioning of this market, I think it's something that is commendable. That should be commended, sorry. What I'm saying is that it's not as if the existing markets are going to be redundant or the existing markets are a bad idea, but these are specially built, configured to serve that purpose. That is there. The most important question you want to ask me is this whole 24-hour economy thing. that you want. Yes. You want to ask me about the 24-hour economy. So I think you should be bold and ask.
Oh, I've been bold enough. I've asked you that question. I need a response. I had to, but again, because you answer. When you answer, I'll come in again.
I mean, listen. We had to first of all restore the economy and ensure that whoever we bring in under this 24-hour economy program will have the benefits of having a stable economy. Remember, the 24-hour economy itself was undergoing legislation. It was late last year that they got their legislation, which gave them the power to even do what they have to do. So it's a process. It's a process we are going through. We have the Volta Economic Corridor, which is the primary anchor of the 24-hour economy, where there are special incentives which will be announced for that corridor. And that corridor will be a manufacturing hub. I mean, there are many times we have, as a country in past, have had fantastic ideas about certain programs which may not, many of them have not come to fruition. So I'll not sit here and say that what we are saying is foolproof. But one thing I can assure you is that there is the will and the ability now to, see to it that the Volta Economic Corridor under the 24-hour economy becomes a fruition. And in a few weeks or days time, the 24-hour economy will come up to announce these things to the public. And it's a beautiful concept.
With the Volta corridor?
Within the Volta corridor.
Okay.
Using the Volta Lake. I mean, I believe that the Volta Lake is the priciest natural resource God gave us. It's not the gold, it's not the diamond. In my opinion, that's personal. In my opinion, the Volta River or the Volta River and its tributaries and whatever is the priciest natural resource God gave us. To tap it, to release the energy the Volta River can give us, will be to turn the tide of our economy. Okay. And that is exactly what this Volta Economic Corridor would do. So let's watch.
So what about, I have a business in my hometown, Agyeman-Rawlings. You've said 24-hour economy, I want to do it. Are you saying that my time, I have to wait for the Volta one to be completed?
No, I said a primary anchor. I mean, the whole 24-hour economy thing, I mean, you and I know that they have rolled it out. They have told you what they're going to do. But I was trying to just focus on, because the conversation has been on
let me come to my main question. My main question to you was, you're building 24-hour economy market, which then would mean that we'll spend our demand at peak hour will go up.
Yes.
Because normally in the night, the markets are off. Now they go up. We know the challenges. You said there hasn't been investment in production, in generation.
In transmission.
And so do we have the generator capacity to support the 24-hour market that you're building?
Absolutely. We have the generation capacity to support. Our peak demand right now is approaching, it's about 4,000 going I think 5,000. But our install capacity is over 6,000. We don't have a problem of generation.
Okay.
Ghana doesn't have a problem of generation. It's been the transmission and some underinvestment in that area that is costing us. If you look at the line from here to Kumasi, I mean, every research shows that it needs to be changed. Okay, so when that's also causes those distribution losses, which feeds into the cost of power. You understand? Because when there's that inefficiency, when you produce 100 kilowatts and the final producer only get 50, you may have to price in the other lost 50 into the cost of the other 50.
Okay.
So all these things are intended to bring down the cost of power.
Okay.
But I want us to hold our breath, because the reason I want you to hold your breath and hope not to die is because these are things which are already being done.
Okay.
You've seen the transformers have come in. You've seen the lines have come in. I mean, Mr. Jackson. Oh, is it Dr. Jackson?
No, Mr. Jackson.
Mr. Jackson. I wanted G-Tech to write to you. Would bear us out that these transformers have come in. The energy minister has been on the road ensuring that these installations are done. Some areas, when you go, pythons and snakes and rats have taken over the transformers, causing us troubles. So we are ensuring that this power stability is going to lead to improvement in the supply of electricity and a reduction, an ultimate reduction in the cost of power.
Okay, I will let you go now. You want to say something?
Yeah. On this 24-hour economy, you know, when it was announced, we proposed that we want to hook onto it. So we sought for a consultant to work something. You know what he told us? He said, as it stands now, with your interest rate at certain rate, this 24-hour economy will be challenged. It's difficult. You can't implement it. Okay. Even at a rate, it was even at a rate of 10%, you can't go into 24-hour economy.
Hey.
Oh yes.
At the rate of
10%. Yes. So
you need to firm up the fundamentals.
So will it come down below 10 before?
No, now we are there.
You see. So these are some of the things.
So we are going to roll it out.
You are there as in rate of 10%.
Oh, your rate.
Mr. Paddy, you are talking about you borrowing at the rate of less than 10%.
Yes.
Able to do it.
To do a 24-hour economy project. Yeah. Yes. So these are some of the things. These are the incentives we're looking for from government. If we want to hook on this, what are the incentives for the private sector to partner this 24-hour economy business? Okay. So because I can't go and borrow at the even rate of 10 to go into production. 24. Even today, last I was saying, 24-hour economy is on my phone. We do a business in the night, you know. Yeah. So we propose those markets that is good. It's going to be good for us because most of our markets are not local government markets. They are customary markets. 2-3 people come together. They are not well structured. For example, let's take Abosukai. 2 brothers came together, started selling their kiosks, and then now it's turned to a market. It's not well structured. So if government has come in to give us a structured market space, it's good for businesses. And you know, and we also, when you give money to women, a woman is sitting beside me here, they can take good care of it. And so when government came out to say they are going to do women's banking, we say it's a welcome idea. The reason for the women's banking to give affordable credit for our women. A woman gave a testimony. Say he used to sell contumely in the market, and he has done that business and taken care of his 3 children, and they have finished university, and one is even a king now. So these are the things we were looking for. So what are some of the things government is going to put in place to give us those incentives so that the private sector will thrive, so that people will stop running the public sector looking for jobs in the public sector? Okay. So these are some of the areas we think we need to clear cut.
That's a question to Fred.
Yes. This is a clear cut.
Mr. Bedouin wants to add something. You have to answer it, then we'll let you go.
The market is good, but don't let us reduce the conversation of 24-hour economy to markets. The focus of the 24-hour economy is to produce in volumes, in quality, and also diversify our economy. It is linked to exports. If you reduce the 24-hour economy and also infrastructure and creating jobs to market, at the end of it, the key performance indicator we are going to use to judge, it's a market that has been built somewhere. But it's the game changer for transforming our economy. For me, it's very brilliant, it's very excellent. But after setting up the law and the secretariat, I think the pace of implementation is extremely slow for me. Because His Excellency President Mahama has less than 2.5 years. And the key policy is 24-hour economy. When are we going to see tangible implementation so that we'll be able to assess at the end of 4 years? So I think that we should move at a more faster pace with the 24-hour economy. I don't want it to be reduced into a political slogan. We had one district, one factory, we don't know where it is. And also back to that, let's look at under the 24-hour economy, how we can transition the industry from the one district, one factory to the 24-hour economy. They are Ghanaians, they are transforming our economy, they are producing, they are exporting. We don't need to start from the scratch. Those who are already there, let's bring them on board.
Okay, so you answer, but just add this one for me. We understand the IMF is projecting that our debt to GDP, our debt will be around 53 billion by end of 2026. And we are also about exiting. So what's the strategy to contain the accumulation of debt?
For currently, as we sit here, we have over a pound on our debt to GDP per NDF figures 2025. And trust me, we are not going to derail. That's, I can assure you. We are still going to run a primary surplus, which means that in net to net, we are paying down our debts. And I mentioned the 30 billion we paid in 2025 over. And in 2025, we did not accumulate any arrears. What it means is that in 2025, every bill we owed, net on net, we paid.
Okay.
You understand? So that shows that if you are running such a surplus, you will not have need to borrow more. I mean, these are projections that we are guided by, but we are going to stay within the debt rule that we set for ourselves, which, like I told you, it's been enshrined into law. Okay, we are going to ensure that we stay within our means, what we have done. We are going to ensure that we spend prudently. We are going to ensure that we borrow wisely. The other aspect is our reduced cost of borrowing. You see, we see the TB rates going down as mere figures, but we saved over 80 billion in interest payments compared if we had stayed at that elevated rates. 80 billion cedis. Do you know what that means? 80 billion is nearly $7.8 something billion. How much did we take from the IMF?
3 billion.
Three. But in 1 year, because of our policy, our policy of fiscal discipline, we were able to save on interest payment more than double what we went to take from the IMF. That should tell you something. Okay. So what we are saying is that yes.
So you mean you didn't accumulate to pay those interest?
No, we didn't accumulate to pay those interest. Okay. What we did was to ensure that we spent prudently.
Okay.
And where it wasn't necessary to spend, we did not spend.
Okay.
We didn't build a national cathedral, for example.
Okay, 24-hour economy. I thought you had a question for you. You didn't answer.
No.
24-hour market. Yeah. So what is the incentive you have for them?
I wouldn't want to take the win out of the sail of the authority. The authority will come, like I said, in the coming days and weeks, the authority will come out to make an announcement of the policy. Yes.
Okay, all right. Earlier, when I was asking about the IMF, I said the debt will rise to 53. It's rather 53% of GDP. That's the forecast that the IMF is giving. All right. So this is still the Job Business Roundtable discussion. We'll take a break here. We'll be back with a lot more. Please do stay with us.
Hello, my name is Pamela from Customer Service. Please revalidate your account by texting your Ghana card number to 0500,000 247.
Hey, Abili, wabedim.
Madam, give me the numbers behind your ATM card. I'm calling from the head office.
An email was delivered across to our customers this morning.
Confirm if this is your bank account. 100,100,100.
Thanks for sending your bank card details.
Send the OTP now to avoid cancellation.
EcoBank will never call, email, send an SMS asking for your PIN, OTP, bank card, or Ghana card details.
Don't get played. EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank.
Hello, please, I'm calling from Customer Experience Center.
This is not just rap. This is not just lyrics. This is War on the Mic. Welcome to Beats and Bars, the ultimate rap battle competition in Ghana, where raw talents meet hungry ambition, where bars hit harder and only the strongest survive.
Fanboy no they pay. Sudi agoro be best sortie o get bonnet is such as kelly.
Okay, on a man, I'm another one pem. But reject another one phantom now. Madame Surupu, we are ransom.
2 communities, 2 fearless MCs, 3 intense rounds, 1 undisputed champion. No backing down, no mercy, just skill, flow, delivery, and bars.
You better get to it.
I say, shake bala bala, shake bala bala, shake bala bala.
Who owns the mic? Who controls the stage? Who takes the crown? Beats and Bars.
Yeah.
After a severe crisis marked by soaring inflation, currency depreciation and debt distress, the return of President John Mahama has been defined by one central promise, the Reset Ghana agenda. This plan aims to steady economic improvement, rebuild confidence in public institutions, and ultimately improve living conditions for the average Ghanaian. Long before the latest economic data emerged, President Mahama had promised decisive action within his first 120 days, ranging from tax reviews and financing for women-led businesses to job creation programs and reforms in state-owned enterprises. This agenda was formally cemented during his first State of the Nation's address in 2025.
Yesterday, February 26, 2025, marks exactly 10 years since I stood in this chamber at this very spot to declare my determination to fix Dumso, a legacy problem of power shortages. And Mr. Speaker, I fixed it. Yes, I promised to fix it, and I did. Mr. Speaker, today, inspired by the Almighty God and propelled by the massive mandate given to me by the good people of Ghana, I am moved to make a similar purposeful and bold declaration that I, John Dramani Mahama, I will fix the economic crisis confronting our country and reset it on a path of growth and prosperity.
Building on that foundation, the Finance Minister, Dr. Akufo-Addo, positioned the 2026 budget as the next stage of that promise, shifting the focus from mere recovery to productivity and employment. For the government, the argument is clear. Fiscal discipline, lower inflation, cedi stability, and the renewed investor confidence are no longer just targets. They are the essential building blocks for national transformation.
Mr. Speaker, the 2026 budget marks a decisive shift from recovery to transformation, from resilience to productivity, and from stability to jobs. Mr. Speaker, over the next year and beyond, government will focus on three priorities: reset for growth, jobs, and transformation. Speaker, the first will be consolidating the macroeconomic stability. The second will be accelerating economic transformation and job creation. And finally, strengthening security and social sector for inclusive growth. Right Honorable Speaker, our vision is clear. A Ghana that produces more than it consumes. A Ghana that exports value-added goods, not just raw materials. A Ghana where jobs are decent, incomes are rising, and opportunities shared by all.
The data presented by Dr. Akufo-Addo suggests a sharper than expected rebound. Real GDP expanded by 6.3% in the first half of 2025, up from 5.1% a year earlier, providing the government with one of its strongest talking points on economic management.
Right Honorable Speaker, inflation has fallen faster than anyone imagined, from 23.8% in December 2024 to 8% by October 2025. Ghana is back to a single-digit inflation. This was not by sheer luck. It is the outcome of disciplined fiscal policy, steady monetary management, stable exchange rates, and strong domestic production. Together, these have restored confidence, stabilized the cedi, and eased the pressure on families and businesses. Food inflation reduced from 27.8% to 9.5%. Prices of everyday food such as tomatoes, garden eggs, okra, and fish are finally falling.
The shift in inflation is perhaps the most visible change. At the height of the crisis in 2023, inflation surged to over 50%. By December 2024, just before the new administration took office, it remained stubbornly high at 23.8%. Today, however, the story has changed. Inflation dropped sharply to 5.4% by the end of 2025, falling further to nearly 3.2% by early 2026, the lowest level seen in years.
Inflation declined from 23.8%
in December 2024 to 3.2 as of March this year. More importantly, Ghana has achieved a primary fiscal surplus of 1.6%, thus reversing previous deficits. This is the result of deliberate reforms and improved public financial management systems driven largely by institutions.
The trend in prices has been bolstered by a resurgent currency. Between 2022 and 2024, the Ghana cedi was among the worst performing currencies globally, plummeting to nearly 17 cedis to the US dollar. Today, the cedi has appreciated significantly, trading at approximately 11 cedis to the greenback, a value gain of nearly 30%. This appreciation has lowered import costs and restored investor confidence. However, Godfred Bokpin, Professor of Finance and Economics at the University of Ghana, warns that we should not get ahead of ourselves. While he acknowledges the recovery is real, he believes the cedi's appreciation may have outpaced growth in the productive sectors of the economy.
If you look at the way the cedi performed this year, the cedi jumped the gun. The cedi went far ahead of the recovery. And that is why we're concerned about the aggressive pace of the strengthening or the appreciation. That growth, again, is not driving what we call structural transformation. Of course, that takes a while. So the growth is still coming from a bit of low productivity. Of course, we can talk about ICT, which was the biggest driver of the second quarter growth. But then when you talk about agriculture and the growth that is coming from crops, it's still low productivity. So we can't use that to say that there's transformation.
Sharing these concerns is the Chief Executive of Dalex Finance, Joe Jackson. He cautions that while the gains are impressive, stringent measures will be required to ensure this newfound stability becomes permanent.
In 2025, the cedi appreciated. And all of us are smiling, isn't it? All of us believe the discipline, the cedi is smiling. But the problem is structural. The problem is structural. So unless we fix it, guess what? As soon as our discipline starts to slip, as soon as things start to change, what will happen? We'll be back where we were before. And that's why this warning is timely. Because you see, you don't give a warning according to the Bible, you don't give a warning in the lean years. So in the good years, you find a Joseph who put aside enough grain for the lean years. This is a time when we're all smiling because the cedi is appreciating. But as sure as night follows day, if we don't fix these structural problems, we'll be back where we started.
The Bank of Ghana's role in this stabilization has been pivotal. From robust monetary policies to building reserves and intervening strategically to support the cedi. Yet, the central bank cannot declare victory just yet. Even with recent rate cuts, real interest rates remain high, making borrowing expensive for local businesses. While the monetary policy rate sits at 14%, average lending rates at commercial banks hover around 19%. Despite this, the governor remains resolute and confident that these measures will safeguard the economy's long-term gains.
In the view of the committee, despite these upside risks to the inflation profile, the favorable domestic macroeconomic conditions, and also the high prevailing real interest rates, these provide scope to ease the policy rate further. Consequently, the MPC decided to reduce the monetary policy rate by 150 basis points to 14%. The committee will continue to closely monitor developments, especially in the Middle East, and its potential implications on the inflation outlook.
To see if these macroeconomic victories are being felt beyond the boardrooms, Joy Business took to the streets to find out what Ghanaians make of President Mahama's first 16 months in office.
They are saying that they've reduced things, but things are not going well. They don't buy. You come and sit here, you will not sell anything, and you go home.
For 1.5 years now, as a business people, I think the government has done well.
It's been here for almost 2 years, and business has gone down drastically. I used to order my own containers, but this year, I've not been able to do that.
No.
you don't have the business not moving at all.
Said a women bank. The bank hasn't come.
For now, prices are down. We like it, but they are not buying. There's no money in the system.
First,
At first, things were expensive, but sales were good. But ever since this government took over, sales has not been encouraging at all.
So far, he's doing good.
For rates, I will give him only 25%.
I will rate it about 20%.
I can give him at least 40%. I'll give him 40%.
Mahama is good. The percentage, I'll give excellent to Mahama.
1 year, the man percent okay. You say 40%. 40, yeah.
So 100 dianka. Bet me a month to say 52%.
It's a percentage wise. Yeah, I can remember say 40%.
In fact, he has done the best. I can even rate him 70%.
After 16 months, the Mahama administration undoubtedly has a stronger set of numbers to work with: lower inflation, a firmer CD, and improving growth. Yet on the ground, businesses still grapple with high production costs, job creation remains slow, and many households are yet to feel tangible relief. This brings us to the fundamental question: do these beautiful numbers reflect the true reality of the Ghanaian people?
All right, so welcome back from the break. Let's now look for some solutions, some practical solutions that are needed to turn around the economy for all of us. The economy is doing well, but for us to feel it in our pocket, I come to my guests for them to help us with what needs to be done. Okay, so I still have in the studio with me Joe Jackson, CEO of Deluxe Finance. I have Professor Ejapoma Jackie Darko, economist. Mark Bedu-Aboje is still here. He's the CEO of Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry. And then Joseph Paddy of Guta is still with us. So I come to you. But just before, let me ask, businesses and then Prof as well. Mark Bedu-Aboje, now, are you worried about the fate of the economy post-IMF?
Obviously, based on our past, anytime we deal with our economy and we get past stabilize. In fact, what we are seeing now is also as a result of.
Okay, sorry for me, we would have to work on your mic. Let me bring in Guta.
Yes. No, we are not worried. We think government is being prudent in its expenditure. So if after IMF product, they don't go haywire, off record, then I think, but so far, what we see in the economy and the economic environment is good for businesses. Okay. Yes, so I think business will strive on that. And then, so we welcome that. And we hope that it should be sustained. Our challenge is sustainability. What government did for us to get to where we are today, what can we do to sustain it? And together, we all have to put our heads together and sustain these economic gains that we've gotten. So our business will strive. So the economic power will come into the hands of Ghanaians. As it stands now, when you look at the economic power, it's not in the hands of Ghanaians. Why am I saying so? Look at all the business around us. Let's talk about the malls. Let's talk about the telecoms. Let's talk about the banking industry. Let's talk about the extractive industry. They are all in the hands of us. That is why my sister said earlier on, capital flight. What are our retention policy? That if you trade in Ghana, if you do business in Ghana, what percentage are retention policy? I think we have them there, but are we evaluating them? Are we monitoring them? Are we using them? So these are some of the things we should be looking for if we want to sustain some of these gains, so that we don't see this capital flight and that will bring pressure on our foreign exchange and then it will go haywire again. So we hope, and we are hopeful. The Ghanaian business community, we are very hopeful that these gains will be sustained. Okay. And we'll grow.
Post IMF.
Yes.
Mark.
Well, I think we should be cautiously optimistic based on our past experience. I mean, we've had IMF come in several times, and when they leave, we go back to our old ways and iterate all the gains that we have made, especially the macroeconomic gains. I'm sure that what we are enjoying are not just because of the IMF, but there are strong policies backing it. IMF will not be here forever. They will definitely leave. But the question is, how do we ensure that these gains are sustainable? It requires a lot of commitment, a lot of fiscal discipline, a lot of monetary policies as well. I want to see that going forward. I don't want us, for any other reason, go back to IMF. We should be able to manage our economy. We have good brains here. We have all that we need. Obviously, if you need facility, there are ways of getting facility. That may be commercial. If you use it judiciously, at a good rate, you'll be able to transform your economy. IMF is not bad, but I also have their own reason why they will come. And when they come, they also may have some impact on your economy as well. So we are hoping that we will not go back in the form that we went back to IMF.
Okay. John Jackson, worried about the economy post-IMF?
There's a sense of cautious optimism. Why is that so? Because the discipline that has been demonstrated to date gives us that hope that post-IMF, the discipline will continue. What worries me post-IMF is not so much the discipline, but external shocks and external pressures. You see, our stability is still fragile. Our stability is, we're just getting out. What are we talking about? 14 months of stability. It's still so fragile that the worry we should have is that an external shock sends everything into a tailspin. And an external shock could be a bad weather. It could be what we have, this current Middle East war going for another 6 months, going for the closure of the Straits of Hormuz and any other shock like that. It could be a flare-up of Islamic terrorism in our neighboring countries. And so what worries me now is that we don't yet have a resilient economy. We don't have yet a resilient economy that can stand those external shocks. And if there's anything we should pray about for intervention, we should pray that we don't have any massive external shock.
Okay, all right. Let me I'll bring in Prof, but let me go to Zoom and bring in Yawapi Alate. Yeah, you listen to Joe Jackson there. And also the IMF projecting that our debt to GDP will rise to some 53% by end of 2026. Post that IMF deal, what must be done to ensure that we stay within the bonds?
Thank you very much. I think it just goes back to the conversation we've had previously, that we've had this vicious cycle of getting out of the fund program and then becoming disciplined again and then going back to the fund program. But the statement from the president and some managers of the economy, they said they're committed to ensuring that we stay disciplined post the IMF program. And I think we can do that, provided we continue to implement the policies that we've implemented when we were under, or as we under the IMF program. And some of the key indicators, like I said, is that we watch our debt levels. So we monitored our debt levels.
Forgive me, unfortunately. I am told that in the spirit of marking the president's 16th month in office, and with the fire that happened at Akufo-Addo, he's there now to update Ghanaians on the state of that situation. Now, let's take you live to Akufo-Addo. Now, when I come, we'll just wrap up and close.
So what is trying to do for the sacrifice? This is an act of God. I mean, who would have expected that the control room would develop this kind of fire? But of course, I hear it's been there since 1964. So they say in adversity is opportunity. because now that this adversity has happened, it makes it, gives us an opportunity to replace with it a more modern control room that will serve this Akufo-Addo plant and let it work for more generations yet unborn. And so I told the minister I was coming here to salute the work you had done. He's briefed me. You have 4 of the turbines back on, and he says that you're working another miracle and that I'll get good news soon with the remaining 2 turbines also coming back on. So I want to thank you very much for what you've done, and we encourage you to continue. So how do we share the 1 million? I'm waiting for my share. Yeah.
Please stand there. We'll take a group photograph with the HLM.
Okay, so President Mahama President Mahama there just finished speaking here after inspecting the Akosombo substation that got destroyed.
All right, so that was the president there. Mr. Latte, just wrap up for me in the next minute. Let me come into the studio so we can wrap up the discussion.
Yeah, great. So as I said, if you're going to stay disciplined, monitor our debt levels, ensuring that we are increasing our revenue levels as well, and continue with the discipline in certain areas, such as ensuring that we are collecting our taxes and monitoring other indicators such as expenditure. We are not overspending, particularly in recurrent expenditure. We will continue to have the positive economic indicators that we have. We have had a mixed blessing with the global development. On one hand, crude oil price has increased recently because of what has happened globally. But the benefit we have gotten as a nation is that price of commodities, particularly gold, has doubled. And so we should take advantage of that because a mixed bag. You cannot have it all being positive. There are some negatives, but we should take advantage of the positives, such as the increased price of gold, increase our gold production and sale so that we get the benefit as a nation. Thank you.
I would want to take your final submission in terms of what solutions you think we need for this economy, your practical solutions for changing the economy to benefit all of us. Just in a minute.
Excellent. So I mentioned earlier that there are 3 key sectors that drive economy wherever globally. So manufacturing, construction, electricity, and water. So we should have pragmatic policies that are supporting water and electricity. So we recently did a study for the African Development Bank, and Egypt, Morocco, and South Africa are those who are able to supply clean and potable water to their citizens at more than 80%. All other countries, Sub-Saharan Africa, with the exception of South Africa, are doing less than 50%. Some are doing 30%. Water and electricity are so important. That's why when we have challenges such as the forced outages called doomsday, it affects industries, it affects the manufacturing sector, it affects the construction sector. So we should have pragmatic policies that are addressing and supporting the production of water and electricity. And you see its impact on job, growth, and productivity. Thank you.
I'm grateful to you, Joseph. Yao Apia Latte, partner, financial advisory, Deloitte Ghana. Let me come into the studio. I'll start to do Prof. Practical solutions for the economy.
Well, I think we should try and maintain the discipline that we are trying to maintain. I see a lot of commitments from the Minister of Finance. I hope that commitment continues. I hope that whatever he's doing would not be derailed by political business cycles that we face. In 2 years, we'll be going into an election. I pray, because he's put in a lot of measures to ensure that he maintains that discipline in terms of setting a debt ceiling, getting the fiscal council. I pray that the fiscal council would also be allowed to work the way they are supposed to be working. That's one. And then the second thing is that I'm also hoping that a lot of support would be given to the manufacturing sector. I think in our conversation we we mentioned that most of the businesses are sort of priced out of the formal financial system, and therefore we have to find a way of integrating them into the formal financial system. That would mean that we come up with intentional ways of getting them in there, giving guarantees, etc., so that they can have access to credit. Also, power supply, we are praying that, hoping that it will be restored quickly. I see attempts being made to restore that so that at least they can get power at power will be reliable for them to be able to produce. Yes, so all in all, creating a friendly environment for the businesses to operate, to expand, etc. And then trying gradually to move from the services sector, driving growth, to the manufacturing sector. And therefore, we need to make sure that the big push, right, would have some intentional things that would drive manufacturing, road construction, making it easier for them to transport raw materials, etc. All of those things would be very, very important in us consolidating the gains.
Some attention should be given to agric as well.
And agric as well.
We have farmers who are waiting for that.
Agric as well.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Buddy.
Yes. I think Prof. Diake said it right and said it all. He said our credit, but she didn't add the word affordable.
I meant affordable.
Exactly.
Because I said the informal sector is priced out of here, so I meant affordable.
Affordable, yeah, that's exactly the question we're asking here. Once upon a time in the business community, we were crowded out from the money market by the government. Because they prefer to borrow, the banks prefer to borrow to government than the private businesses. But as it stands now, per the rate coming down, that they are now pushing to come into the market to look for businesses. So it's healthy for businesses to grow. So we think, and one of the things we didn't talk about, every business, we want to trade in a secured environment. So, and in recent time, we've seen that our security is somewhere on top notch, that we've not experienced those things where our mothers and sisters be traveling and then we'll be attacked by robbers and stuff. So these are some of the things. In the 15 months of his governance, we've seen a stable security somewhere along the line, which is a welcome news for businesses too.
All right.
Yes.
Okay. I'm grateful to you, sir. Let me bring in Mr. Joe Jackson. Yes.
In terms of solutions, there's a blueprint that is bold, that makes sense. Get it off the ground quickly. That's the 24-hour
economy.
Yeah. Get it out there and running. The other thing is to maintain the discipline. Maintain the discipline to the discipline, because if the stability is the takeoff, you can't afford to lose that stability. You need to maintain the discipline. And those are the two key areas that we need. And for the rest of us, private sector, the general public, let's have some patience. It will take some time for the stability to translate into our pockets.
Some other people will ask you, why didn't you have patience for us?
I think it's also the patience that we have, we are asking for now, is predicated on the discipline that has shown results. Right. The patience we are asking for is not out of the air. Okay. There's discipline that has shown results. We're saying continue the discipline and we'll give you time to show the results.
Okay. All right.
If you hadn't shown any discipline, if we hadn't shown results, then why should we have the patience?
Give time some time.
Yes.
Well, thank you. I think around this thing, we have all agreed that the only way out for us is to improve on the manufacturing sector. So I'm happy to hear in the academia also supporting our advocacy. Is good. We see the private
manufacturing supported by agric.
Obviously, because agric is supposed to give us the raw materials for us to add value to. So you say the private sector is the engine of growth. Every engine needs an oil. And that oil is what we're asking for. It's been said, a low and affordable interest rate, reliable and affordable energy, and deliberate to support and stimulate private sector activity. And I'm sure that if we continuously do that consistently, we'll be able to transition from this stability to growth that is more important, growth that will create the jobs, not jobless growth, but a growth that will give us a jobs, and also be able to reduce poverty and change the structure of our economy.
Okay, so government, pay attention to manufacturing, but discipline, continue your discipline. Ghanaians will give you the time, and make sure that your fueling manufacturing is supported by agric, and also make power affordable to the manufacturing, and then it can for them to create the jobs for you. That has been the thing around this particular table, that we've all agreed that things are working in the right way. It will take time for the transformation to happen. Businesses say they are willing to give government that time. Once the government is showing that discipline that it is showing now, but pay attention to manufacturing sector as well. Thank you very much for being with us.
Somebody just sent me a message, said, when I was talking about security, I didn't talk about the people who had their challenge at the Burkina Faso tomato issue. Yes, so we share in those plight with them. Unfortunately, it happened outside Ghana, so we share in their plight. Okay. But we think so far the government has done well in terms of security in the countries. But we share also those plight, that those sisters that happened, those who died at Burkina Faso. We our condolences to the families.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Joseph Paddy is Vice President for GUTA. You also heard Mr. Mark Pedu Abuaje. He is the CEO of the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry. My regards to Abbas Miezan. He's my very good friend. Yeah. And then Joe Jackson is the CEO of Delex Finance. Uncle Joe, thanks for coming. And then Professor Ejapama. I don't know. Jeke Dako. Okay. Economist with the University of Ghana Business School. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for being part of us today. All right. And that's how we wrap up the Joy Business Roundtable discussion. We'll meet you again some other time when we have the discussion. On behalf of the production team, camera, sound, directors, I say thank you for spending your time with us. Let's continue the discussion wherever we are. My name is Samuel Kojo Brace. It's been an honor to be your host. Good afternoon.
One of its most dramatic years in recent memory. It opened 2025 at 14 cities, 70 pesos to the dollar. By February, it had weakened slightly to 15 cities, 50 pesos. It stayed there until April, one of the longest periods of stability in more than a decade. Then came the surprise. Between April and May, the city shot up. It strengthened from 15 cities, 50 pesos to 10 cities, 30 pesos in just 5 weeks. From May through July and into early August, it held steady between 10 cities 30 pesos and 10 cities 50 pesos. But by mid-August, the tide turned. In only 3 weeks, it slipped to 12 cedis. That has made it one of the worst performing currencies in the third quarter of 2025. External conditions have not changed much. In fact, they remain in Ghana's favor. Gold prices are at a record high. The United States dollar is still subdued, and the Federal Reserve is expected to cut interest rates soon. Normally, these will support the cedi. The pressure instead is domestic. Remittances are one of Ghana's most reliable sources of dollars, but this year they are slow.